We ready? Yep. Good evening. I'd like to call the City of Oldsmar City Council meeting of Tuesday, May 1st, 2018 to order. If you'll please rise for our invocation and our pledge. It will be led by our City Attorney, Mr. Tom Trask.
Our Heavenly Father, none of us lives for or because of ourselves. We all live as a part of a community. Help us to work together to build a community that sustains and enhances life. May those of us who have been selected as leaders within our city remain open to your wisdom. Remind us that the common sense and worldly wisdom that we have been taught sometimes need to be set aside in favor of a holy wisdom, a new way, a different path. In the discussions that take place this evening, open our hearts and minds to sense the wisdom that you have to share. This we have to pray. Amen. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, and once again, welcome. First item on tonight's agenda is the Citizens Open Forum. We only have a couple of rules that you keep it to no more than 5 minutes. You state your name and address clearly for the record. You can speak towards items on tonight's agenda in the Citizens Open Forum. However, if you're speaking towards item 9 or 10 or 13, those are public hearing items, and we will ask for your comments at that time. Having said that, anybody on this side of the room like to address the council? Yep, ladies first. Oh, right.
I'm from Oldsmar Little League, so I have
very cool.
jerseys to present.
Oh, very cool. We always like an Amazon box.
Yes, right? Me too. Amazon boxes are good.
You want to go up there real quick and say who you are and what you're doing? You can do it at the podium right there. And introduce the little guy.
Okay, I'm Katie Weller. This is Cannon, my little one. My older one is currently playing baseball. He's up in Tarpon at a game. So
Okay.
We're here from Oldsmar Little League to present you with Oldsmar Little League jerseys.
Oh, very cool. Awesome.
And I live over on Washington.
That's great. Even better. Hi.
Say hi. Hi. So maybe this is yours.
Oh,
wow.
It's the fancy one.
Kudos to you, young man.
And then I have another one for Eric.
Tidell?
Thank you.
Those are cool.
Those are cool.
Yeah.
And then Jerry.
Thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome.
They came through.
I know.
Now I remember. Opening day.
Wait, we might have to switch
Right.
yours.
The shameless plug.
Who's that? Who?
I think we have to switch yours. I think that might be Gabby's.
This is Gabby's?
Oh, we
So you're
wear a
confusing
similar
me with
size.
Gabby?
Yeah, sorry, you got the name. You got the name.
I was looking for a name inside, but she's going purely on size, and I'm like, I'm not gonna say anything,
That
but
is so cute that you two can share clothes. That's awesome.
Very cool. I love it.
You got yours? Or did she steal it back from you?
No, he's got it.
I can still in
Dan?
it.
Maybe Dan? Dan's right here.
Right here. Yep, thank you so much. Thank you. It was very nice of you. Thank you very much.
Very thoughtful.
Really appreciate it. Yep.
Empty box.
Oh, when you come up at the end, yeah. You want a picture?
you very
Should we do a picture?
Sure.
Here, we'll all get together.
Where's your box? I don't know. We'll have to see.
I don't know.
For Jerry.
Jerry.
Get in here next to Doug.
You're cool.
I will say
Jerry
this.
has yours. There we go. That's what it is. I'm like, somebody has the ladies one.
Oh,
No, yours is actually the same time. Jerry's got the ladies side.
Okay, now I'm so bad. This is getting better and better.
It's funnier and funnier. Hold your shirt up.
Don't laugh
I
too
can
much.
entertain you. All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Awesome.
You all
Thank
can
you.
still play out there now.
I should probably put this on.
Can you say bye?
Bye. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Sweet. That was nice.
Jerry, next.
Jerry Custin up here, up Tempe Bay Chamber of Commerce, 101 State Street West. Got a couple things. We know Oldsmar is a great place to live, work, and play. And we found out from our hospitality industry that they need workers. So we have our restaurants and hotels are saying they're having a little bit of difficulty getting people to work. So we're having a hospitality job fair. May the 14th at the Hampton Inn from 2 to 5 p.m. We are also including a career source. So have some broader opportunities if people come there, looking for other things. And also the city of Oldsmar is going to be represented at that with your job. So just want to let everybody know, anybody looking for full or part-time employment in our hospitality sector here, May 14th, 2 to 5 p.m.
I'm gonna need something to do next March, so maybe I should stop by.
There you go. The other thing,
Qualifications over there.
thing I might mention is I got an email today from Congressman Bill Rox's office, and I sent each of you an email. We have a very senior visitor coming down here Friday, the chairman of the FCC, the Federal Communications Commission. So Congressman Bill Rox is going to host him at Nielsen for a type of a town hall meeting from 10 to 11:30. So anybody interested in our communication structure, internet, anything that you have to do with that, would like to hear the chairman of the FCC or ask him questions, that's the place to be.
Can you remind me? I'll try and make that. That's also our golf tournament day.
Yeah,
too,
10,
so,
oh, is it really?
yeah, in the afternoon.
No, 10 to 11:30.
Okay.
10 to 11:30.
Yep. Thanks, Chair. Anybody else on this side of the room? Anybody on this side? Gator? Oh, it's up to you. You can fight her. Lovely Miss Judy Black.
Judy Black, 2010 Hudson Court, out in the suburbs. One of my doctors has suggested that I go into assisted living. There's none in Oldsmar. I need an assisted living place to be built in this town right away. I don't want to leave Oldsmar. We want to stay here. And so I know there's plenty out there, but none in Oldsmar, none. And our baby boomers are reaching that age
Yeah.
where they're gonna need them, and then one day you youngsters might need them too.
Are you actually calling me a youngster? Are you really?
Yes.
Bless you. No matter where you go, we love you. No matter where you go, you are loved. As long as he doesn't read poems.
Anyway.
Well, we're sad to hear that, but
You'll always be Oldsmar,
yeah.
that's for sure.
My housemate's just left. I don't cook, but I do have an open room now. So.
Well, there you go.
Thank you, Judy. Gator?
I'm Steve Gator Black. I live at 2010 Hudson Court with her.
She has a name.
And I am the assisted living facility right now. I want to talk tonight about poetry. Gary, you don't have to listen to this. I firmly believe, and I've said this before, that everybody has a poem in them. As a matter of fact, I was just sitting there messing around on the computer, and I got on YouTube and I found a cowboy poet that just prompted me to write this poem that I got tonight. His name is Baxter Black, and unfortunately he's not related. He's a cowboy poet and former large animal veterinarian. And he's very, very funny. He's down to earth. If you get a chance, look him up on the internet, baxterblack.com. Anyway, he prompted me to write this. This is a story about the life of a cowboy. The late night campfire sent sparks skyward as a lone cowboy tossed another log on before he crumbed into his bedroll. There were more stars out than he had ever seen. The only sounds were the crackling of the fire and the occasional mooing of an old cow. Off in the distance, a lonely coyote howled his mournful cry as if saying good night to everyone. The cowboy was tired from a long day of driving the 200 or so steers, the 20 miles to the river crossing they would make in the morning. But he didn't go to sleep right away. He lay there with his head on his saddle, his blanket pulled up under his chin, gazing at stars twinkling in the sky. This would be his last drive, the end of the trail. After all, 40 years in the saddle was enough. He had mended many miles of fence, fixed many a leaky roof. He'd seen the birth of many new calves. No telling how many bales of hay he'd scattered for who knows how many herds. He just wanted to sit on a beach in the warm sun and tell his grandkids about how it was living the life of a cowboy. Thank you.
Thank you, Gator. Also our Oldsmar Poet Laureate, so thank you for your, yeah, of course you can, yeah.
When I met him, he was doing that.
He was a cowboy?
He didn't do it for 40 years or whatever he said. But while he was in the Air Force in South Dakota, he was
You're a cowboy.
horses and doing the cowboy stuff.
You got a little redneck in you, don't you?
There's no rednecks in South Dakota. And if you're going to be a cowboy, you want to be a cowboy in South, North Dakota, Montana, Wyoming, and my state of Idaho.
And there are cowboys in Florida.
Yeah.
They're not, they are. There definitely is, but they're not Western cowboys.
No, you're right.
I'm fine.
Southern cowboys.
Calm down, fellas, before we get into a shootout.
I'm gonna break out a lasso.
Travis, keep an eye on these two, would you? Anybody else on this side? We got one more, yep, and then we'll get to you. Yep, Matt. Oh, okay, I didn't see, sorry.
Good evening. John Mills, 550 Salmon Court in Gull Air Village. My wife and I think several of my neighbors are here this evening to support item number 15 on your agenda. We have a speeding problem in Gull Air Village and apparently no way to enforce the 1 or 2 speed limit signs that are in place. We'd prefer the 15 miles per hour, but 20 will do nicely. But we need something that's enforceable, and we need the police patrol occasionally to make sure that the speeders are clamped down on. And those speeders are not always from outside. Many of them are friends and neighbors, but they all need to be aware of the damage that could occur if the speeding continues.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Deputy, our CPO will come up and talk to it tonight. It does seem kind of odd that you have to raise the speed limit to catch speeders, but
Slow it down.
we'll kind of get into that later. We had the same thing in our neighborhood. But, Travis can address that in a little bit. Yeah, Matt? You got my shirt on?
Matt Clerk, 501 Pine Avenue South. I actually woke up at 2:30 this morning, and some of you would have seen the post that I made, and it was actually real. It really did happen. Recently, we acquired $300,000 worth of royal palm trees down at West Palm Beach. and it's an English friend of mine, and he's clearing the lot, and he said you could have some. So I've told a few friends. We've literally done about 6 runs, and Oldsmar right now has about 30 new Royal Palms in it. So last week we ordered a locate on pine for one of our other neighbours to put palms in so he can have them out the front. And I've actually debated about doing it myself as well. So I'm left with about $200,000 worth of Royal Palms, and we don't know what we're going to do with them. So I figured that the city might be able to use them in some way. I don't know how, but that's up to you. But they're free, and he will load them, but he's got no transport to get them to Oldsmar. So I'm already in a couple of grand just doing it for friends. So I don't know whether it's any beneficial for the parks, something you can dig up now, plant, put somewhere else later on. That's basically it.
Okay. Is that something we can at least talk to?
We'll look into it.
And see, yeah.
They're free.
Yeah.
And each palm's worth about, most of them range from $2,000 to $5,000 each. They're very expensive palms.
Okay.
So that's the first thing I want to talk about. The next one's something that I've talked with Mayor Beavis. The stop sign on St. Pete Drive and Bayview, heading towards State Street. There are 2 trees right there. I took Eric for a drive around there today to show where the white line is, where you legally have to stop, then where you have to move forward to give way left and right, and even then you need to come out into the intersection a little bit more for the trees that are on the corner. There's nothing wrong with the trees, they're pretty trees. They're in the wrong spot. As some of you know, we bought Ari Olds' display home, work home, whatever it was, and we're just renovating, doing the small things in the roof, the painting. On a ratio of, say, 30 to 50 cars, there's an incident. I've even watched one just drive straight through. They can't see the stop sign, and it just doesn't make sense as you come up to the intersection. So if you're coming from the park,
which corner? Just so we can, Bayview at
across the
St.
road
Pete.
from
the park, downtown.
the house you stopped at.
Yeah, I know that, yeah. But at that corner, so the southwest
So if you're
corner?
coming towards State Street,
Coming towards 580,
Stop
you
at
mean?
the stop sign.
On Bayview,
Yes. When you
Are you
stop
at
at the
the
stop
Dave
sign,
Hotel?
you look
going
either
this
way.
way,
you
going
go
this way, there's 2 stop signs.
Okay, I'm asking you.
Bayview.
Just so we get it.
So
Bayview and St. Pete
The
Drive.
Bayview Hotel.
Yep.
Right at that section where you look to your right, the Bayview was on your right.
Okay, so on that corner, so the southeast corner.
Yeah. So where that white line is, where you legally have to stop, if you went past it, you'd get ticketed for rolling or whatever. That, if you legally stop there, you look to your right and there's a wall. It's the building. To go at 1 car length, you're still looking at the wall and you can see a bit of St. Pete Drive. And if you go 1.5 car lengths out, maybe even 2, depending on your car, you look to your left, the tree's in the way. You look to your right, you can sort of see. But as you come up to the intersection, that tree blocks the road entirely.
Okay.
So you don't know it's a road, and people drive through it.
Oh, I know.
And I think I was talking to you once before on the side about it. I said one day somebody's going to get killed there, and the lady next door said, "Oh, somebody already has."
Yeah.
But I actually physically watched an accident. This lady just drove straight through.
Yeah, it
and I
happens
think
so much, yeah.
I know that it's. You said something about the highways department. That's something for them to sort of more take care of. But those 2 trees.
Those are on, yeah.
They're right on that corner there. And the other thing, as you know, I just put in a permit to put that fence in, and I never stopped at that stop sign before. Like, I've never come that way. I do stop at stop signs, but I put in those I do stop. We put those planters in, and I had plans to put nice like mini palms. I think they're called acrea palms, and they're very shrubby.
Rika.
Which one?
Rika.
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah. Just ask me.
And I went and bought them all for those pots. And when I watched these accidents, I actually went one day and stood where a lady stopped, drove forward some more to give way, and I watched where her head was sitting in the car, and I went and stood in that exact same position and looked, and you can't see. So if I was to put those palms in,
We'll look at that, but it's northbound towards 580.
Correct.
Okay,
So
so,
I think it's mainly those two trees. They block the site that there's an intersection there as you come to it, because the accident I witnessed was going towards the park.
yeah.
But the other one is just as bad because the tree looks like it's blending into the medium ahead.
Okay,
So
yep.
that's
We'll
it.
look at
Thank you very
Thanks.
much.
Yep, thanks. Did I see anybody else? Honorable Judge Reba is here tonight with us. Throw me up with the bow tie.
Good evening, everybody. I appreciate the council giving me an opportunity to speak. My name is Judge Joshua Reba. My address is protected by statute. I just wanted to let everybody know that I've just begun my campaign. I will be on the ballot this August. I am currently a county court judge, and I am running to keep my seat as a county court judge. Although I did not bring any materials with me this evening, I do have a website that my committee has set up. It is keepjudgereba.com, and that has more information about me. And I was planning on sticking around in case anybody has any questions after the meeting.
What kind of judge are you?
I currently preside over our South County Traffic Court. So luckily it's on the other end of the county.
I knew that, that's why, I knew that, so, see the bald-headed guy right there?
I was sitting in the back not paying
this
attention.
one. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
We brought him on purpose for you, Matt.
We're going to hold court as soon as this meeting's over.
And this is a legal document, this recording, right? So, thank you. Anybody else on this side? Anybody else in the room like to address the council? Seeing no one, we'll close the citizens' open forum. Just a couple of items on the mayor's minute, a recap. I was honored to do a principal appreciation breakfast. That was Friday, April 20th at Ruth Eckerd Hall. Honored to attend and see our local educational leaders receiving deserving appreciation for the 2017-2018 school year. We heard from the music instructor for Dunedin Elementary School. We heard the choir from Carwise, and we also heard the percussion group from Dunedin High School. And I got to tell you, of all of them, the Dunedin High School was incredible. Being somebody who was a world-renowned violinist, I have an appreciation for their...
Wow. Wow.
But their conductor actually grew up here, or their band leader, and he went through and he told us, and this was at Ruth Eckerd Hall, and he said, this band is going to play for you. There's probably about 50 kids, but he didn't do the typical conducting. He said, this is my band, here are a couple of people. He had us do some exercises as a group to make sure that we could think and follow, and it served a purpose. And he walked off to the side and he said, I'm not sure exactly when they'll start, but they kind of feel each other out. And then all of a sudden the lead one starts to play, and he just sat in the back of the room. And it was really neat to watch them play as opposed to just reading their trumpet music or their whatever music, and they had to really pay attention to the entire piece, and they kept adding more and more and more pieces to the presentation. And he just stood off to the side, which I thought was really unique to not have to do that for these young kids. So if you ever get a chance to see the Dunedin percussion system, do that. Our annual paper shredding and recycle day, it was Friday, April 20th as well. Partnership with the Upper Tampa Bay Chamber. Thanks to all our residents and businesses who took advantage of these services. And thank you to BRM Business Records Management, paper shredding, 5 tons we shredded. OCM Recycling, 2 tons of electronics, and the Sheriff's Office medication drop, 83 pounds of medication that was dropped off. So another great success. And we did it last year, and it's not as big this year, but I think it's because if you watch the news, a lot more companies and media outlets are starting to catch on to that. So plus you probably shredded everything last year. We Mean Business, our monthly visit that we do with the Upper Tampa Bay Chamber of Commerce, the city manager and myself. We visited Blue Shark Bait, which is right there on St. Pete Drive. We also visited the Zen Zone Experience, which is right there by Jimmy John's. It used to be CarQuest, I believe. Far more interesting than when we went in there. I found out that he is the intelligent one. I acknowledge that, and that I'm the thinker, I guess. Is that what it was? Did I get that somewhat?
Whatever you say, sir.
And I'm the heart.
Yeah.
And the stress ball that they gave us
Yeah.
worked for our workshop.
We had a workshop yesterday, and we brought our negative energy ball that was supposed to absorb all the negative energy. course, it rolled straight towards me. Rolled straight towards our city attorney, so I'm not sure what that means.
That I have no negative
Yeah,
energy.
that's right, that's what it is. So Zen Zone, if you get a chance to check that out, it's pretty interesting. Power Clean Corporation, which is another great company that really supports Oldsmar. And of course, then we stopped at the brand new Mugs and Jugs right there kind of in the Flamestone Plaza, for lack of a better description. Artist recognition and exhibit that was started tonight. The Water Conservation Art Exhibit open and awards reception occurred tonight. Congratulations to the winners. The exhibit will be in City Hall from now till June 20th. If you get a chance to check that out, please do. Upcoming events, I mentioned a little earlier, our annual golf tournament. That's this coming Friday, May 4th at Crescent Oaks Golf Club, Tarpon Springs. Looking forward to a 1 p.m. shotgun start. Proceeds to help fund summer camp scholarships for the city of Oldsmar. This is another great exhibit if you get a chance to see it. Remembering Florida's Fallen photo exhibit. That's Monday, May 14th through Wednesday, May 22nd during the library hours. The ribbon cutting will be Saturday, May 19th. And if you haven't been there before, she told us how many. It was 300 fallen, Florida fallen soldiers that we've had, and it's just a moving experience. It's a picture of the one that lost their lives, some stories from family members. Some people clip pieces of memorabilia to them, but it's different than what you might see in Washington with the names. That's very powerful as well. But to be able to see Safety Harbor or Tarpon Springs and picture the young man on the wall there is pretty touching, and it really puts a lot of depth, I would say, to that. So if you get a chance, once again, that's May 14th through the 22nd. Do we know if any of that's on our website, if people need? Okay, myoldsmar.com. You can find out about that. So that wraps up the Mayor's Minute. Next item is we have nothing in our CRA. It's the consent docket. 3 items: approve the purchase and installation of scoreboards at Fields 1 and 2 in the Oldsmar Sports Complex. Those are for Fields 1 and 2, the soccer and football fields. Also accept the resignation of Chuck Winscott from the Planning Board and approve the tentative agenda for May 15th, 2018. If nobody wishes to pull anything, I need a motion.
Moved.
Second?
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor?
Yes.
Aye. Passes 5-0. Thank you. City of Oldsmar, appoint John Carroll as alternate member of the Board of Adjustments. Is John here? Yep, come on up. Thank you, and thank you for coming before us.
Thank you, sir.
We have a poem, a song, or a dance. Pick a number between 1 and 10. No, I'm just kidding.
I'm not smart enough for poems. You don't want to hear me sing, and if you want me to dance, then I guess the meeting will be adjourned.
That's right.
You're going to work out great on the adjustment board.
This is great. Thank you. A little bit of background on you?
Wow, this is the first time with a microphone. I'm 28 years old. I'll be 29 in June. I'm a U.S. Army veteran. I served in Iraq from 2008 to 2009. I was a military policeman. I was medically retired from the Army in 2011. My experience since then, I served as a corrections officer up in Alaska. I was worked for the VA. Currently, I work as a reemployment specialist, helping veterans get back into the workforce, helping them with significant barriers. Some of those include disabled veterans, homeless veterans, those who are caregivers to veterans. I'm originally from New York, if you can't tell. Pretty good at hiding that. But I moved down here in 2004, enlisted in 2007, and when I got out and I left Alaska, I came down here, went to St. Leo University, and I've been down in Florida ever since. Until recently, I was living in Spring Hill and going back and forth to my job in Clearwater, and I just moved to Oldsmar only a few months ago, and I have a lot of free time now. So I wanted to be able to best utilize it, and I want to be involved in the community and serve as much as possible in any way possible. One of my biggest passions is history, and that's one of the good things about Oldsmar is that there is so much history. I mean, looking at the seal alone of the city shows that history is taken seriously, and I believe in the future, but I also believe that to be able to see the future, you must be able to do it while respecting and preserving the past. You can't forget about the past, and I want to be as involved as much as possible with my new city and hope to make it proud.
Well, thank you so much. That's very commendable. Thank you for your service as well. I'm sure I echo everybody up here, and thank you for kindly coming to your senses and moving from Tarpon Springs to Oldsmar. Spring Hill, sorry. Yeah, so thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you for that. And I love your passion. I think that's great about wanting to be part of the city. And we just had our banquet the other night, and full of people like you that just want to give back to the city. So thank you. Any questions or comments?
No, the only comment I would have is, one, thank you, and two, I served on that board, and so you should know going into it, you're not always the most popular person on that board, because sometimes you have to say no.
So it's high school again. It's high school again for me. Oh.
Yeah. But, if you have the right passion, you'll do well on it. So thank you for volunteering.
Thank you.
John, since you have such a great passion for history, you should maybe join us at the Historical Society meetings one time. I'll keep you updated on that.
Yes,
You might
sir.
want to join us.
I think you're pointing that out because you saw me as I filled out my application already, sir. So.
Right.
That's shameless, isn't it?
And they gave him a hard time. I couldn't believe it. Do you know Frank Chicola?
The name's familiar, but.
You need to get a hold of Frank Chicola. Call Gus Bilirakis' office, or get with Jerry. That's
Jerry, he'll meet him on the Board of Adjustments.
no.
Yes, sir.
We know why you weren't popular now.
That's not why, there's a lot of reasons.
We'll give him enough to do.
Frank and Gus Bilirakis does a lot. What you're doing,
Yeah, that'd be great.
you need to talk to Jerry Custon right here and put him in touch with Frank Chicola. And thank you for volunteering.
Yeah.
And history is important. I wrote the 4 books on the history of Oldsmar.
And he was there during all of this.
He wrote it.
It's another reason why you weren't popular.
Nervous
It's
John,
all right.
for the city.
Thank you for your
Thank you, John.
Thank you. If nothing else, I need a motion.
So moved.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you again. Thank you for your service. Get with Jerry right there in the yellow. He'll point you in the right direction. Oh, boy, this next one pains me. Reappoint John Hill to the Firefighter Pension Board. Mr. Hill, front and center. How are you, sir? I see you brought your-
John Hill, 605 Tangerine Drive, Oldsmar, Florida. Had this big long speech, but I decided to forego it, so.
Oh, yeah.
Just requesting the council for a reappointment to the Firefighters Pension Board, and I've been there for almost, just about 2 years.
Okay.
And looking forward to serving again, my way of serving the community.
Okay, we appreciate that. It's had some contentious years, I think, in the past, but I think we've moved well past that. And reappointment, Ann, how often is that? That they get, you have a term, I guess?
Yes.
So 2-year terms, okay. Well, thank you for that. And any questions of John?
No.
Thanks, John.
Thank you, sir.
More than welcome.
Need a motion?
So move.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye?
Yes.
5-0.
Weren't you on that board? Popular there either.
Man,
Thank you.
When the mayor said there were some
Thank you, John.
contentious moments, I was on the board during that time. I was just going to be quiet.
yeah.
Thanks, Jerry.
And you weren't popular either.
You were on both
Popular
of
with the
The
city.
history is that he isn't popular.
I voted
No
against
matter
this
what
in common.
board
He
he's
was on
on.
both the boards that were contentious. Is that a common thread?
Pure coincidence.
Pure
Pure
coincidence.
coincidence.
Thanks. Next item is presentation of drinking water, week proclamation, and I will go ahead and read that. Drinking Water Week, whereas water is our most valuable natural resource, and whereas only tap water delivers public health protection, fire protection, support for our economy, and the quality of life we enjoy, and whereas any measure of a successful society, low mortality rates, economic growth, and diversity, productivity, and public safety are in some way related to access to safe water, and whereas we are all stewards of the water infrastructure upon which future generations depend, and whereas each citizen of our city is called upon to help protect our source waters from pollution, to practice water conservation, and to get involved in local water issues by getting to know their water. Now therefore, I, Doug Beavis, Mayor of the City of Oldsmar, Florida, do hereby proclaim the week of May 6, May 6th through May 6th through the 12th, 2018 as Drink Water Week in the city of Oldsmar, and will call upon all citizens and businesses to help protect our precious resources. Dated this the first day of May 2018, Doug Beavis, Mayor, and I will present that to Nan Bennett. Are you? And staff.
And staff. I have a number of staff here that help bring our safe drinking water to everybody every day. So we have Sammy Cruz, our chief operator, water treatment plant operator. Ben Pugh, our distribution supervisor. Thomas Adams, works in distribution with Ben. And Kyle Rasmussen is here. He's a water treatment plant operator. And Jana Jan, our Assistant Public Works Director and Utilities Administrator. And this is just a small portion of the people that it takes to bring good, clean, safe drinking water and take that water away and make it clean enough to either return it to you as reclaimed water or to the environment safely. And they do that 365 days a year, often silently, but they are really the lifeblood of the community that keeps that water flowing for us.
And I know we've all said it. We've all said this, including Jerry has said it, we don't appreciate the efforts of our city employees, especially in your departments, until we go to turn on the faucet and the water's not there, and we go to flush the toilet, and, well, we'll leave it.
Those are rough days.
These guys here, these guys go even up and beyond to make sure people on Pine Avenue finally have decent water. Thank you all for what you do. I mean, they do. Plus, a lot more of them go out there and flush that 150-year-old pipe. What, every, yeah, you better work on it faster.
I know. Jana will hold it. She's tight. She used to stand up front.
Smoke's in?
That's good enough.
Why we gotta stand next to you?
Oldsmar has the best water in the county.
The water's great, it's the pipes that aren't that great.
We have a lot of employees in this town that do stuff like this, and you have no idea how they keep us in the sewer plant, keep us with water, keep the roads good. They're incredible. They really are.
Next item is National Day of Prayer, and I'll go ahead and read that. Whereas the National Day of Prayer has brought people of faith together from across the country to seek the Lord's strength and wisdom over the past 67 years. Whereas we affirm that it is God who grants us the rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And whereas we must take every opportunity to thank God for all of his blessings, and whereas we pray for those courageous men and women who defend our country day after day, and may God grant them peace and protection. And whereas we dedicate this day of prayer to glorify God and seek his will in the upcoming year, and whereas across our city, state, and nation, on May 3rd, Americans will unite together to pray for blessings on our state and nation. And whereas the theme this year, as observed by the National Day of Prayer Task Force, is Pray for America, unity based upon Emphasis 4.3, which challenges us to mobilize unified public prayer for America, making every effort to keep the unity of the Spirit through the bond of peace. And whereas across our nation, on May 3rd, Americans will unite at specific times in prayer for our nation to acknowledge our dedication upon God, to give thanks to him, to recognize our need for personal and corporate renewal, and to invoke God's blessings upon our leaders and our families. Now, therefore, I, Doug Beavis, Mayor of the City of Oldsmar, Florida, do hereby proclaim May 3rd, 2018 as National Day of Prayer in the city of Oldsmar and invite the citizens of our city to pray in accordance with their own faiths and consciences in thanksgiving for the freedom and blessing we have received and for God's guidance and continued protection as we meet the challenges before us, dated this first day of May 2018. Doug Beavis, Mayor, and Mr. Sullivan. Thank you. I'll give that to you. So if you want to say a few things and tell us about what's going on.
Yes, this is, it's actually our 20th year doing the National Day of Prayer here in the city of Oldsmar.
Who you are and where you're from.
Oh, Barry Sullivan, with the Oldsmar House of Prayer, been a pastor here in the community for several years. Live at 300 State Street, East, number 209. And my wife and I have been doing this for 20 years now, and my wife couldn't be here tonight because she's sick and trying to save her voice for Thursday evening. But this is a great thing. I was actually thinking back, it was a couple years ago, I was doing some research when we were doing our centennial for the city, and I saw that this building, when this building was finally built and dedicated in 1918, there was a church that Ari Olds had started in a home a couple blocks from here, and he moved it up to the second floor of this building. So it was actually here where the first church of Oldsmar actually held services and met and worshiped and prayed. So it's pretty profound that we can come back. We were in here last year because of the rain, but hopefully we'll be out on the City Hall steps. So this Thursday at 6:30 p.m., we'd like to invite everybody to come out and be a part of it. Just going to pray, we're going to sing a little bit, and just ask God to just bless us in this coming year as the mayor proclaimed.
Thank you.
So,
Thanks.
thank you.
That's good.
That's good. Okay.
Thank you. Good work. And our next item is our North Pinellas Cultural Alliance presentation, and former council member and vice mayor Linda Norris in the house.
Hello, Mayor, Council, Tom, and Al. I promised Al that I wasn't going to talk too much because he told me how many pictures could be in the slideshow, and I kind of didn't follow that, and he allowed me to have a few more pictures, so I'm not going to say much, but I do want to give photo credit. One of the photos, Alexa, thank you very much. The last picture from the drone is Alexa. Jeff Rosen, Jeff, our reporter, did some of them. I did some and some other people, and what you're going to see in the slideshow, here it is right here. Come on up, Noel.
Linda, move that down.
Move it down?
No, pull it down in front of you.
Oh, pull it down here.
There you go.
Okay.
Introduce your guest.
And this is our beautiful artist, Noel Jordan Stillman.
Good evening.
Hello. Noel, hello. How are you?
I'm well. How are you doing this evening?
Good.
So all I'm going to say is that we did this in order, and we had children helping us, which was awesome. This is Dion. And I just wanted to thank everybody, and that's all I'm going to say because I promised Al. So.
Good evening. So this is going to run so people can kind of get a sense of the process that we went through. I would like to thank the city council members for providing the opportunity to create this large scale painting. This is the first one that I've had opportunity to do. So a recent exploration of my work has been to build bridges between our ecological and local communities. And I was honored to create this work for the city because of not only the caring and warm-hearted community, but also because clearly one of the core values within the city is an embrace of the outdoors. The public arts create an environment of culture for cities. They allow the uniqueness of a city to shine through showcasing what they value. And I encourage the city council to continue to nourish the seed of creativity it's planted within this project throughout Sheffield Park and continue to allow the vibrancy of the voice of Oldsmar to shine. So thank you for this time. I appreciate it.
Thank you. I think it looks great.
Yeah, thank you.
I wasn't able to make it out there while you were out there working, but I did pop out there periodically, and as it got closer to finishing, I think what we were shown at the council and what we see out there is, I don't want to say two different,
A lot different.
completely different, but the very same thing, but it pops so much more than the original rendering. So congratulations to you for really making it, I think vibrant is probably
It looks so good when you're out there. I was joking about it when I was filling in for the mayor. There's a new path that goes along in the grass because I don't want to walk on it. It's like you walk around.
Well, we use traffic paint, so it's really sturdy paint.
But it looks great.
You should be very proud of yourself. I've been riding my bike again in Sheffield Park. I'm finally back on my bike. Every time I'm out there on my bike, there are people looking at that. So you should be very proud of yourself.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Thank you.
So where's the next area?
I guess
Give us some more money.
Yeah, you got another wall?
Well, actually, North Pinellas Cultural Alliance actually sponsored this one, but.
Yeah, they did.
yeah.
How big is it? I mean, it's probably what?
Approximately 750 square feet.
Okay.
Yeah. You definitely want to see the well, all of them. You want to see all the pictures because I worked hard on these pictures. She worked hard. There it is.
There it is.
There's
Oh, wow.
Alexis. Thank you very much, Alexis. He gave us. I actually had to crop you and your grandson out because it was too far away. Sorry. Oh, and then there's the ribbon cutting. And thank you so much for those of you that attended to the ribbon cutting. It was very well attended. So we're very proud of it.
All right. Well, congratulations.
Did I do it?
Thanks.
Stayed within 10 minutes?
Perfect.
Absolutely.
Outstanding.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for coming tonight.
Absolutely.
Next is our city attorney.
I have two ordinances I'm going to read tonight. The first one is an annexation ordinance. I'll read that by title only. 2018-05, an ordinance declaring the intention of the city of Oldsmar, Florida to annex certain real property located in Section 22, Township 28 South, Range 16 East, further described as Lot 8, Block 10, map of Section Number 1, West Oldsmar. Parcel number 22, 28, 16, 9, 6660, 010, 0080, into the corporate limits of the city of Oldsmar and providing for the effective date of this ordinance. That was the first reading of ordinance 2018-05 by title only.
All right, and as you always say?
One at a time.
Public hearing.
Yeah, I know. Public hearing, anybody wish to address this item from the public? Seeing no one, will close the public hearing for discussion purposes. Need a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Alice just provided me this. We talked about it at our meeting this morning. That brings us to 54% of the lots in West Oldsmar.
Wow.
And 41% of the total acreage in West Oldsmar. So we've crossed the halfway mark, so.
And so how's that happening, Mr. Mayor?
How's that happening, Mr. Mayor?
Pardon me?
One at a time, right?
One at a time. Yeah, that's very happy, because let me tell you something. We were sued twice in West Oldsmar.
All right.
Sued twice. And you know what? We lost twice. But you know what? In the end,
We've got 54% of the lots.
one at a time.
Yeah, that's right. So we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion on this? I think it's great. So if hearing none, call the roll, please.
Vice Mayor Seidel?
Yes.
Councilmember Saraki?
Yes.
Councilmember McKee?
Yes.
Councilmember Bieber?
Absolutely.
Mayor Vivas?
Aye.
First reading of ordinance 2018-05, annexing West Oldsmar, Section Number 1, Block 10, Lot 8, into the corporate limits of the city of Oldsmar, passes with 5 votes for and 0 against.
All right, item number 10 on your agenda is the second final reading of public hearing for ordinance 2018-03. This is the sign code ordinances. I'll read it by title only. Ordinance 2018-03, an ordinance of the city of Oldsmar, Florida relating to signs, amending or repealing portions of Articles 2, 13, and 14 of the City Code, Part 3, the Land Development Code, concerning sign regulations and sign-related definitions, amending Articles 2 and 4 of the City Code, Part 4, Town Center Development Code, concerning sign regulations and sign-related definitions, amending Section 42-44 and 50-32 of the Code of Ordinances, amending Section 3.17 of the Land Development Code, amending Section 5.1.2 of the Land Development Code, amending Section 14.8.8 of the Land Development Code, providing for purpose, intent, and scope, providing for status of existing non-conforming signs, making related findings, providing for codification and severability, and providing an effective date. That was the second and final reading of ordinance 2018-03 by title only.
Thank you. This is also a public hearing. Does anybody wish to address this item? Seeing no one, will close the public hearing for discussion. Need a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion on this? Seeing
I
none,
just
call-
have one request.
Okay.
We'll probably never hear about this ever again. I don't think, unless Tom wants to educate us on it at a further meeting. I would like to have a report. Where are you? There you are back there. And no, I want a report on any problems we have with this. Just the problems themselves. If somebody has a problem that they said, well, we're grandfathered in and you're not grandfathered in, or because it's interesting to me to see if this is going to cause some problems, probably, and we probably won't have to worry about it, but I'd like to have a report of any that you do have. Thank you, ma'am.
How about if I was just talking to our city manager, what if we get like a 6-month update if there's even
Yeah,
anything?
that's fine. That's fine.
Just as opposed to one by one, if we have
Right.
Yeah, that's
sometime
fine.
before the end of the year, whatever. Just
If
give
it's a
it.
big enough problem, we'll hear about it.
Well, we'll hear about it before then, for sure, probably, so.
And I want to thank Tom for your work. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Motion and a second. If no other discussion, call the roll, please.
Vice Mayor Seidel?
Yes.
Councilmember Zafi?
Yes.
Councilmember McKee? Yes. Councilmember Bevin?
Yes.
Mayor Beavis?
Aye.
Second and final reading of ordinance 2018-03, amending the Land Development Code and Town Center Development Code concerning sign regulations, passes and is adopted with 5 votes for and 0 against.
Awesome.
Thank you, that's all I have tonight.
Thank you, city manager.
Thank you, Mayor. Item number 11 is accept the annual audit for fiscal year ended September 30th, 2017. Approaching the podium now is Mr. John Hauser, partner from our city's independent auditing firm, Wells, Hauser and Chatzel, and he'll be presenting the results of the city's annual audit. Rules of the Auditor General's Office require that all municipalities have an independent audit performed every fiscal year, and with that, I'll turn it over to Mr. Hauser.
Why does it seem like it's an annual audit, but we see you every 3 months?
Time flies when you're having fun.
Well,
Wow, I don't-
one thing about John, see, we don't see him much anymore. You might, but I don't see him. He would take over the clerk's office for 6, 7, 8, 9 months, and we didn't get the 1 penny out of him for everything that he.
I'm out of sight, but not out of mind.
But I don't see him anymore.
You can come by and see us anytime.
We see him plenty.
Yes, we're pretty intrusive. I'm sure they're glad to see us get out of their hair.
Actually, we're not.
Well, thank you. Good evening, everyone. You have hopefully got a copy of the CAFR. It's a pretty large document. It should have been in your council packets. A separate report is called the Required Communications, small 2-page report, is included in your packet also. The city implemented no new accounting policies, and the existing policies were not changed during the year. We didn't have any disagreements with management, and we were provided all the documentation that we requested, and all our inquiries were adequately responded to. We had proposed no audit adjustments. There were adjustments for the pension-related items that always come in late, and we encountered no significant difficulties during the application of the procedures. So overall, nothing to report. The CAFR itself contains several audit reports. The first report precedes the management's discussion and analysis. It's our report on the annual financial statements. We have completed the audit. It is for the fiscal year ended September 30, 2017, and it expresses an unmodified opinion in that the financial statements fairly present the results of operations and financial position of the city as of September 30, 2017. Our remaining reports are in the very back of the CAFR. There's a report on internal control and compliance. We noted no instances of non-compliance. No control, and there goes the mic. So no non-compliance with laws, regulations, contracts, or grant agreements. Then there's a report to the required by the Auditor General of the state of Florida. There were no instances to report there either, no prior year amounts, findings to follow up on, and everything was in order in that area also. There's also a report on the city's investments. The city has adopted an investment policy, and we noted no instance of non-compliance with that policy or with the rules of the state of Florida as it pertains to the city's investments. We have also provided a financial information attestation statement related to EMS funding. It's required annually by Pinellas County, where it identifies the EMS expenditures, the EMS funding, and the expenditures actually exceeded the EMS funding, so there's no amount due back to the county for September 30, 2017. I'd like to thank the city staff for, providing us with everything that we needed and being accommodating, and for their professionalism in working with us in completion of the audit. I'd really just like to focus on the two main statements called the government-wide statements. They follow the management's discussion analysis, and they begin on numbered page 17. This is the statement of net position. It gives an overall picture of the governmental activities and the business type activities. And the total assets of the city were in excess of $122 million. It's about a $2.5 million increase over the prior year. And those increases primarily were in cash and investments, and then offset by a reduction in capital assets. Actually, just the depreciation on those capital assets exceeded the additions, but overall about a $2.5 million increase in the total assets. The total liabilities and deferred inflows, they increased only about $320,000. Current liabilities were up $817. Deferred inflows, which are related to the pension, that would be Florida Retirement System as well as the firefighter pension, were up about $270. And there was a decrease in the long-term liabilities and deferred revenues of about $760,000. That's just your normal debt service with the existing debt within the city.
Excuse me, can we ask questions as we go along?
Yeah,
So
if-
we're-
certainly.
because
That
it
probably fits
particular-
better.
Yeah, probably easier.
Certainly.
As it relates to net position, I was curious. I know that, I think it said in the report that almost 80% of our net position is related to assets that we have. Do we actually do an evaluation of the increase in those, the assets' values? I know we have to take depreciation down, but I was just curious on buildings and land and that kind
Yeah,
of stuff.
the assets that are on these books are recorded at historical cost.
Okay.
Okay, so there's never a reevaluation, even though the market value, if you will, may far and exceed the investment you have in it, especially with the net of the depreciation, but it is on a historical cost basis. Not uncommon for municipalities to have the bulk of their assets invested in infrastructure and buildings and for providing the services to the citizens.
And Al's got something to add
I
into
just
that?
wanted to add that for insurance purposes, we do periodically appraise all our assets to determine if we're insuring them properly.
Do you by chance know what the market value is of our assets?
Of the total?
Yeah, I'd be
I have
curious.
no clue.
I've asked that almost every year, and he has been evasive every year.
I'm all about history.
Good answer.
Well done.
But also, too, you have your capital outlay, capital improvement plan that goes over multiple years, and that you're replacing these assets as they're depreciated and ready to be replaced, so they can remain in service. The net position is the difference between the assets and the liabilities, and overall, it was about $104 million. The investment in capital assets was down about $516,000. Your restricted net position was up about 1.5. These are monies that are earmarked for specific expenditures, and the unrestricted portion of the net assets increased about $1.1 million. Overall, about a 2% increase over the prior year of net assets. And you can utilize the net assets, that unrestricted portion, for appropriation for any budget shortfalls. But that unrestricted portion, the average over the last 7 years has been about 5.5 months in the governmental funds, and about the same in the business. Overall, you've had about 5.5 months average over the last 7 years available for appropriation. The next statement is the statement of activities, and this is starts with the expenditures on a departmental type basis, activity type basis for your general government, law enforcement, fire protection, tech services, transportation, library, parks and rec, community development, as well as interest. The expenses or the activities generate program revenues that offset those expenses, but you can see on page 19, it shows the net cost of each of the activities, and overall you have about $11 million shortfall from the program revenue offset on these governmental activities. That's further supported by your property taxes and sales taxes and other general revenues of the city, which are about $11.3 million. So overall, there was an excess of $217,000 at the end of the year. But when you look at the business type activities, those activities you want to see support themselves through the user charges that you have, and you basically have the water and sewer, the stormwater, and the solid waste divisions. And each one, other than the solid waste, reflected positive net income from operations. Small loss in the solid waste, and that's due to the increased cost in the disposal of the solid waste. But overall, there was a $2 million excess within the enterprise funds overall. It's a massive statement, this CAFR, a lot of good information. If you want to get a good picture of it, read the transmittal letter and the MD&A. The notes to the financial statement provide a lot of in-depth information, a lot more detail. And then you have 10 years of historical information and the statistical tables in the back. If anyone else has any questions, I'll be glad to address them now.
How many years have you been now?
I can't recall, Jerry. You probably know better than I. It's been a while.
28 years.
I had a question. I was curious, is it typical for us to reduce so much debt? I see we reduced 9.8% of the total debt of the city. Is that common for that much debt to be retired? I mean, that's terrific.
Well, you're on a debt service schedule. You have required debt service payments, much like amortizing your home mortgage or your car payment.
But I guess it's more along the lines of, is it a matter just that we're not taking out any new debt?
We don't have a lot to begin with, so that percentage part.
We'll be taking out that with Harbor Palms, won't we?
It's part of the plan, yes.
So we enjoy it now.
Right.
In the MD&A, it's in there good. It won't be in there next year.
You take out, you take out new debt, but then you also get rid of debt. So it kind of, a lot of times it offs. I remember when I ran for council in 1990, one of my themes was we can reduce the budget in this city for $2 million. Well, actually what happened after that is that there was a lot of debt retired, and it happened to be $2 million. Which I had nothing to do with it.
Right, exactly.
And as you get closer to maturities, you pay more principal than interest. So
John, is there any, Mr. Mayor?
Yeah.
Is there any concerns that you have as an auditor that you're not required to disclose after you're going through the audit process this year?
Well, as Jerry says, we've been here a while, and the city's come a long, long way in establishing a very professional workplace, being very serious about accuracy in their records. A number of years since we've even proposed a journal entry, the staff does a fantastic job. We perform tests of transactions. Everything that we test meets the requirements, follows the city policies, and I wished all municipalities were this clean, if that's what you want to call it. But no, I feel the city's in a good position now.
Terrific. We do too.
We're in good shape, in other words.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Were you looking for us? Anything? Any action?
I don't think accepting the report, does that require a vote?
Okay. Well, thank you for that presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, John. Item number 12 is approved lease and management agreement addendum with Empower Adventure Operations Tampa Bay LLC. The recommended motion is to approve the lease and management agreement amendment, as I said, with Empower Adventure Operations Tampa Bay LLC, our zipline vendor. Mr. Joe DeRing, who's a representative from Empower Adventures, is here to answer any questions. A little background: the city of Oldsmar entered into a lease and management agreement with Empower Adventures on February 2nd, 2016. The agreement provided for the construction, lease and management of a canopy tour and team building experience facilities at the Mobley Bayou Wilderness Preserve. The original lease will expire on December 31st, 2025. Assistant City Manager Felicia Donnelly negotiated a few changes to the agreement which necessitated the amendment, and she too is here to speak on it if required. You want to comment on what the changes are?
Yeah, can you just hit the highlights?
Before we let Joe take over?
Good evening, Felicia Donnelly, Assistant City Manager. The amendment really captured three primary changes. The first one was to allow the construction and use of a 200 square foot interior space within the Lynn Reeves Environmental Education Center. We have the space there, so it's just a portion of it, probably about a quarter. The tenant, Empower, will render $250 a month to the city for lease of that space. They'll be responsible.
That's a new item, right?
Yeah, this is the addendum that you'll be voting on. The space will be built out by Empower, so the city has no construction costs for the space. The second thing was, while we were doing the addendum, the current agreement required that Empower render 5% of their gross sales annually to the city. We recommend that be on a quarterly basis so that we can estimate the revenue a little better. So we included that in this amendment just because we were already doing an amendment. And the third thing also cleaned up something from the old amendment. We felt strongly that there should be a provision for signage. Signage was silent in the original agreement, so wanted to make sure that the signage was specified in this addendum. So they have an existing sign right under the Lynn Reeves Environmental Education sign. There's two on the monument signs that are existing that are part of our park signs. And then there would be an additional one. They're cutting a window kind of in the back underneath the canopy part. There's going to be a window to their new office space, so there'll be a sign on that window to identify that that's the space. So I wanted to clear that up, and all of that, of course, requires sign code compliance. So those are the three major items.
Awesome, thank you. Any questions of staff?
Yes, are you going to be moving out of State Street, or are you going to stay there too?
Nope, moving out.
Well, you have questions of staff first.
Sorry.
No?
I'm done.
Okay. Good. Okay, Joe, thanks. Thanks, Felicia.
Hi. So to answer your question, we'll be moving out of State Street and consolidating our entire operation there at the park.
Can you give you and I have talked and we've met out there, but I mean, this should tremendously help you because so many people, I think, come to the zip line facility and you're on State Street, so it was a little bit
Yeah, so our business address is actually 423 Lafayette Boulevard, which is the address of the park. So we've, for the first 2 years or so, have been maintaining this office on State Street. So it's kind of, split apart our operation where you have the support operation on State Street, the actual operation on Lafayette. So now we can bring them both together and we can be there during business hours throughout the entire day, 7 days a week, to not only provide service to our customers, but to provide concierge type service to park goers, to help with Felicia and Leisure Services and Bryn, to kind of be a go-to for their programs and their offerings as well. So it's a true partnership now with us being there co-located together at the park.
Yeah, because if you're not there, you don't sometimes realize how many opportunities might have been missed by.
Absolutely. So, yeah, for sure.
Which is a win-win, so.
Joe, I had a question. 200 square feet doesn't seem like a lot of space. How many employees are going to be stuffed into that closet?
It's a workroom, and it's right now it's 2 or 3 at most that we have. So it'll be plenty. We'll have 3 workstations. We'll have a phone, a couple filing cabinets, and that's about it. So
I don't think State Street's much bigger, is it?
It's not.
Right. Yeah, it's going to be the same size.
What's the anticipated timeframe?
So just found out yesterday that this was at this point. So we're hoping within 60 days.
Okay, good. I like it. Yeah, Vice Mayor?
Just a couple questions.
Yeah.
I'm curious, I think I asked when we were renewing the agreement, how you did the previous year. Either that or you were giving us an annual update.
Yeah, last June, I think.
And so I had asked Al to pull the numbers just to see how it's going in general.
Yeah.
And so we don't have all the 2017 numbers. I think we have them for the first 5 months. So I'm just curious, in terms of our revenue share.
Right.
How do you think 2007, how did 2017 finish? Do you know the numbers?
Yeah, so we'll end up being about 10% ahead of our first year. And then as we start this third year, we're assuming and projecting that we're going to be about 15% ahead of that. We've seen in our first 4 months of 2018, we've seen a much higher rate of growth and just customer traffic and sales than we had anticipated. We go into this next 5-month period where it's going to be a little bit slower growth because of the summer. And then we get into Q4, which will be a good time for us. So I anticipate the growth to be steady and, as we get through the month of May, we'll complete our second full season open here at the park. And I'll be here in June to provide those updates financially for you like I did last year in June.
How much, I'm just curious, how much is it going to save you from moving out of the office on State Street?
It's about $80 a day is what we've calculated. So
It'll save you $80 a day.
That's right.
Can you give me the monthly number? I could figure it out if I. What do you pay a month there?
On State Street? Say again?
16 to 1800.
Well, all in, absolutely.
And so we're giving you that space for $250 a month.
That's right.
Sounds like a good deal to me.
Well, I would propose an amendment. I'm not going to.
Right. Well,
let me finish.
Sure.
I would propose an amendment to charge you more, but the fact that you're growing by double digit and we share in that revenue.
Right.
I do think that you'll end up with more business by being on site. So.
And to that point, I thought of the same thing, and not exactly like that, but there is some added value with the partnership with the city. That,
no question.
So there's unmeasurable value there.
And we're investing in the build out. We're going to be paying for the systems, and the price per square foot is pretty similar to the other build outs that you've seen across the city. So.
And I will say this, that huge fan of the amount of community service that you guys do, the amount of donations in kind that you do with a lot of different organizations. I mean, you've been a terrific partner.
Yeah, this will be in my annual update, but we give out up to, $7,500 in kind services to Oldsmar organizations, schools. So that's a big part of what we want to do. The employees.
Got the zip line.
Family night starts tomorrow night, Wednesdays in May. Shameless plug. Come out to the park, $20 the zip line. Bring a picnic dinner every Wednesday in May. So.
Are there any plans to get our new city manager out on the zip line?
I exceed the weight limit, so I'll have to. Can I tell him what you did for me? Is that allowed?
Absolutely.
I got to meet the Lightning.
Yeah.
When they came out.
Cool.
He told us on the QT, I guess, for Buzz, to go take some pictures because they were doing a team building exercise at the Lightning.
As a matter of fact, I'm trying to get my hands on the video that the team had made while they were out there at the park doing their team building, and I actually saw it on Sunday morning for the first time. And the soundtrack that they put to the video is "Born on the Bayou."
Oh, very cool.
So it's super cool, I thought.
He superimposed my face on Stamkos's body.
That looked weird.
Yeah.
That's all I
Can't
got.
unsee that.
Yeah.
That's all I got, Mr. Mayor. After that,
I'm just curious, did you get the invite when the Lightning were here to go?
I missed it.
You did.
I missed it.
It was.
Yeah.
That's why I asked his permission.
I
to
thought
tell
we
him.
were in the shh club, I guess. And to that point, I think to Eric's point too, I ran some numbers, I can't remember what they were for Felicia about office space. And while it might be quite a bit less, office space on State Street is obviously at a premium as opposed to an office in the woods. In the woods.
Yeah,
I mean, you're a businessman. I mean,
without a ceiling, without central air, without so.
Stability.
yeah,
But again, we're not.
matches the address now, which is
It does. Thank heavens.
so good. So, you looking for a motion for us?
Yes, please.
Motion to approve?
So moved.
Second, you can fight it out over the motion. So motion and a second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, or did you have comments? I'm sorry.
Well, I just had one comment. I was totally against them building an office out there. I was against that, and I would have fought that to hell and back. But the way they're doing it, it's, I'm for it.
It's a win-win, I think, for everybody. you know.
Good to hear.
Yeah, so that was a yes? All those in favor, aye,
Yeah.
yes? Uh-huh, nod, shake, okay, good. Look forward to ribbon cutting on your new
Thank you, Joe.
facility.
Sounds good.
Thanks, Joe.
Thank you, Felicia.
Yep, thank you.
Item 13, adopt resolution 2018-06, authorizing the application for the state revolving funds program and to accept the facility plan for the Harbor Palms SRF funding package. This is a public hearing. The recommended motion is to adopt the resolution 2018-06, authorizing said application and pledging revenues for repayment to accept the facility plan for the Harbor Palms funding package. I will read the resolution by title only. Resolution 2018-06, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Oldsmar, Florida, relating to the Department of Environmental Protection State Revolving Loan Program, making findings, authorizing the loan application, authorizing the loan agreement, establishing pledged revenues, designated an authorized representative, providing assurances, providing for conflicts, severability, and effective date. That completes the reading of resolution, Resolution 2018-06. Staff recommends approval, sir, and we have Lisa Ray from JEA, who we all love.
Throwback Tuesday.
She's here to answer questions and make a brief presentation about the facility plan. Essentially, to boil this down, this is a step in the application process that's required for us to ask to be put on the fundable list to SRF when we need the money.
Okay, welcome.
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Council. Thank you, Al, Tom. Great to see you again. I am here to talk about the SRF process in Harbor Palms, but I am going to start with a quick update about where we are with the project. So as you know, background, this is one of your council priorities that you established at your strategic planning a few years ago. And it's being covered through capital improvement projects in the infrastructure group. So we're looking at water distribution, gravity sewer, streets, and stormwater. Now, we anticipate the outcomes from the overall project to be conservation of water, because as you know, right now, there's quite a few water main breaks out there, and you have a lot of leaks. Improvement service for the residents, so you're not going to have the water outages, the boil water, the cut up streets, cut up sidewalks, improved efficiency for staff, because they're not going to have to be doing these repairs all the time. They'll be able to focus on other parts of the city as well, and better compliance with regulatory. Now, in the end, I personally believe this is a great project for the neighborhood, and it's going to improve the neighborhood tremendously. Now, where are we at with the project? Well, we started with a public meeting before we had even begun design, right about the time survey was starting in September of 2016. There was another meeting this past November in 2017 where we had the 60% drawings, and one of the meetings was held at Tico Hall and the other one was here in the council chamber. The one that was at Tico Hall, just to tell you, we were trying to hold it down at the park, but there was a really bad storm that blew through that day, so we ended up relocating up to Tico Hall. Now, a couple of the other items that we have done as we've worked through the project is assess some of the rear easements. There are a few rear easements, and we were not able to access them by walking, so we ended up using a drone, and we did a flyover. And I have a couple of the pictures here that you can see. On the left-hand side is Tangerine, and then you see those white lines that run parallel, that's the easement itself. On the right-hand side is Maplewood. And what we were able to see is within the easement, there is quite a bit of infrastructure, personal property. People have some pools that are encroaching, there's some fences, there's trees, there's sheds, and because of that, the disruption to this area and getting in there and doing work behind these houses, just the return on investment was not there. I mean, you're really going to upset the residents. And the problem, and you live right off of here, did not warrant that kind of disruption to the residents. So with that, we worked with staff and we came to the agreement that, okay, this is really best left alone as it is. We'll do some spot repairs. the staff, the city staff will work through some of the point issues, but it wasn't going to be a wholesale project as part of the overall project.
How much problem did that cause? 'Cause I can tell you right now, you can't get that, some of those emails, you cannot get to them. So what kind of problems is that going to cause?
Well, it depends on what you have in the ground. Now, this area actually has a pipe underground. So as long as the water can flow to the inlets that are attached to the pipe, then the stormwater is able to move out of the way. But if you're looking, so here you can deal with some of these fences and sheds as long as you keep that surface flow open to the inlet. Where you have a problem is if you have a swale. And so where you have swales in the ground, that's like a real shallow ditch. And if you have these obstacles, then it's going to stop the water from flowing across the surface. So what needs to happen, there were a couple of places that were identified where really all you need to do is go in and do some slight regrading so that the water can get to some of those inlets.
And you can do that? Because I know some people out there, and I know some of those places you are not going to get to. Now that raises another question. Where's Marie?
What are you looking for?
Has Marie gone?
It appears that way.
That raises another question, and I think an important question. How do they build anything out there on these easements? How did that happen? I think that question needs to be answered.
I mean, I think it's quite obvious people can build sheds on a Saturday and,
They do.
you know?
They got swimming pools out there. They got fences out there.
Yeah, I mean.
Years ago.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question. There's probably a multitude
It
of
hasn't.
answers.
Yeah, but what does years ago have to do about it? It has nothing to do about it.
Yeah, I looked at this one picture over here and I'm like, how did that get built in that easement?
The one picture looks like there's a room.
Pool and like an addition.
I mean, when I bought my house, we found out that the person that put in the paver driveway was in our neighbor's yard. And our neighbor was nice enough to give us that land. But, you know,
Well-
sometimes these things go unnoticed or there isn't proper surveying or permitting. I don't know how it all happens,
I
but
mean-
at the end of the day, there's a pool in the
Sure.
easement and there's nothing you can do about it. So now you have to work with.
If you build a swimming pool out there on an easement, somebody needs to pay.
Well, for the purpose of this,
What if that, is that?
Probably worth
That's an
coming back
argument for a different day, probably, but
Well, they have to deal with it now.
I understand, but
Well, fortunately, in this situation, we're able to work around these obstacles and we'll be able to address the issues that do
I know that, see,
exist.
but the obstacles you have to work around are obstacles that should have been caught in the first place.
Well, let's be honest, how new is drone technology? If they didn't have the ability to go back there and see where the easement was, I
Right.
mean, before we had drones, how would you have actually known this without, you know what I mean?
Without
So-
getting a surveyor out there every time on
And
every
you think
lot.
about asking a homeowner to pay for something, what if that homeowner just bought that house and they
Yeah.
have no idea? Now we're charging someone that didn't even put the pool in. I just think it's a thing of the past, we just have to make sure now that
Shouldn't
there's
have
new-
happened in the
that
first
there's new
place.
technology, that
well, I
better
mean,
ways
there's a
to
lot of
take care
stuff. I mean, but that's an argument for a
anyway, go
different
ahead,
day.
go
That
ahead.
doesn't, you know, and I mean, we just recently, a couple of months ago, had was that the Susan Oliver thing with the missing, I mean, the survey where you're missing 2 feet here or 2 feet there, or you're, like your case. It shouldn't happen moving forward, that's for sure. But at any rate, thank you. Go ahead. Is there anything else?
So, yeah, so, and where we're at, we have completed the 90% design for the water distribution, the streets, and the stormwater systems. Now, the sanitary sewer lining project is being done outside of this project, and the city is coordinating that as part of their annual CIP sewer lining that's approved every year. And I believe you're in phase 2? Just completed phase 2. So that is already underway and proceeding. And where we're at right now is we're working on the state revolving fund, SRF loan. to help cover the costs for this project. And this SRF process, so what is SRF? The state, it's a low-interest loan for local governments that is coordinated through the Florida Department of Environmental Protection. The interest rates are generally below market value, and there are two categories that it falls into. You either have the drinking water category or the clean water category. Now, this project is eligible for both because we have drinking water, the pipes, and we have clean water related to the stormwater. So we're going to be talking about going after loans for both types. Now, that does have some benefits, and you'll see when we get a little farther why. A couple of the requirements that go along with SRF, they do require American iron and steel, which is going to impact valves that are installed. They need to be American made. Davis-Bacon, fair wage laws, which we've had these provisions before. We had them on the RO plant. We've had them on other projects here in the city. And then we also have a goal for 5% contract pricing for minority businesses. And it's a goal. It isn't always achievable. It depends on the type of project. But a lot of times that can be captured with a surveyor or with some of your other more specialty type of services. And then all bid information will be coordinated through SRF and through the program itself. Now, how does it work and where are we? The first thing that we need to do is submit the request for inclusion form. Now, this was completed in March of 2018, and along with that, that's just kind of your placeholder. You're telling them, hey, we're going to be asking for money, and we estimate it's going to be this amount, and we think we're going to need it around this time. Then what you need to do is submit your planning documents. This is the process that we're in right now. And that is part of what this facility plan is that we're going to be talking about in a little bit more detail. All of this information, once it's submitted, gets reviewed, and it is placed on the priority list public meeting, which will be in August. So all of the documents have to be in. They prefer to have everything in 45 days in advance. However, as long as you've managed to get the facility plan in and several of the other items in, then you can, if they have comments or need anything amended, you can continue to work on that up until about 10 days before the meeting. So the planning documents. Now, you need signed and sealed drawings and specifications. Those have already been submitted. We submitted the 90% drawings. The title was changed to SRF submittal, and so they've already been submitted to the department. The facility plan, which includes an executive summary, environmental effects, alternative analysis, and an implementation plan, and you did have a copy of that in your packet, so you were able to review that. Public participation. We've already had 2 meetings, and obviously we're having another public meeting right now, so public is definitely aware this is going on, and I know quite a few residents have been very engaged as the process has gone forward. The financial feasibility, which is looking at revenues that are going to be used to pay for the loan once it comes into effect, and then the project authorization, your approval. Are we moving forward with this project? What is really happening here? Now, what are the environmental effects? So we're going to protect public health and safety is probably the prime issue here. And that goes back to our pipe breaks, reliable clean water, no standing water after storms, because all of that leads or can impact public health and safety. We also were required to evaluate a couple of different alternatives. Now, the first alternative here I would consider basically you're replacing everything, regardless of the state it's in, it's all being replaced. So that's going to actually be your most expensive. That would be all new sidewalks, all new curbs, all the streets would be replaced fully. The alternative number 2, which is the approach we ended up using, was more of an assessment of each location as we go along. Does the sidewalk really need to be replaced? Are we impacting it? How is this gutter in this location? Is it flowing okay? Does the street need to be fully reconstructed? Or can we use full depth reclamation, milling and resurfacing, and just using the appropriate level of repairs that are required? Now, obviously, in all of this, all of the water lines are being replaced, all of the service lines are being replaced. That's a given. So that was alternative number 2. And alternative number 3, which if you look at it on capital side is the least expensive, is to do nothing, but in reality, that's not a real feasible alternative. So we eliminated alternative 3, obviously.
I kind of like it.
It fit in the budget.
Yeah, it fits right in the budget.
It does right now, but you wait, it'll just keep happening and keep breaking out there. It's not, long-term, that's not where you want to be, I think. So we got implementation plan. This kind of lays out the schedule. Where we're at right now is getting the SRF. Once we have the SRF stuff done, then we'll be able to pull all of the bid documents together. Advertising, based on our conversations, we're looking at the beginning of next fiscal year. Since this is being approved at the August budget for SRF, that means the funds will become available around September and flows right into the fiscal year, with project overall completion of all of the phases by February of 2021.
Is that feasible?
Yes. Okay. Now, construction and demolition, this is our financial feasibility. So you have a couple of different categories in there. The construction and demolition is just your plain, this is what we estimate it's going to cost for construction. SRF does allow your pre-approved loan amount, basically, to include other fees. And so that's what is summarized here. You have contingencies, services during construction, during bidding, loan service fees, you can finance those, you can finance interest during the time that you're drawing on the loan. So the total amount that was requested or is being requested for SRF includes all of those additional fees, now, which will total out to $11,541,000. Now you can see the breakdown between drinking water and clean water, and I do want to point out, look at the difference in those interest rates for the two.
Huge.
So your clean water, which is actually your larger amount, has the lower interest rate. So that's a good thing that we're able to use both categories, because it does give us that benefit of that lower rate. And in the end, the amount that you borrow, it really depends on what you draw. It's not, you're just being pre-approved for a total amount. You might only end up drawing 7 out of the 11, or whatever it may be, depending on how the finances go. So next steps, we need to submit the resolution, submit the approval for the facilities plan, which really summarizes the different alternatives, talks about the financing, talks about the environmental aspects of it, submit the signed and sealed facility plan along with the resolution, and then we get all of the documents through the review process and see what kind of comments we get back from DEP. And they'll tell us, okay, we need this, this might need to be revised, and they'll be back and forth as we go through that. But the big hurdles are in, or will be in.
Lisa, a question, I guess, for Al or somebody. The possibility of $11 million. Something catastrophic, what happens?
What do you mean by catastrophic?
That the $11 million is not enough.
Oh, it's not enough?
Well, I don't know. I know. You
borrow more.
You borrow more.
If it's required. The fund is in good shape. Everything's in place.
I know you've all done a good, you've done your homework, and I
We have some debt that's going to expire soon, so we're not literally piling on debt to the enterprise. We're kind of replacing it. And we're fortunate that the rates for both of those programs are so low that the debt service more than likely is going to be less than the debt service we're finishing up now.
Okay.
And we won't know, we won't know the cost of the debt service till we know how much of the 11 million.
When they price, I think we should assume it'll be a little higher. But some of this, and I got the formula for anybody who wants to see it, the formula is based on monthly data, so it will be influenced by rising rates, but it's also influenced by supply. It's a revolving loan fund. One of the reasons the clean water is so low is because they got so much money from projects 30 years ago that's coming in. They want to get it out so they can make more money. So it's a convoluted formula, but compared to the market, as Lisa pointed out, it's very favorable.
Mr. Mayor? Al, is the debt that's retiring, how much longer is it? It's the water plant, isn't it?
It's a 90 series related to the water sewer fund. It's called a crossover refunding, and I may have something that suggests we're going to retire it even sooner, that I literally just spoke to the bond counsel today. But 2.5 years, we have 2 more full payments and 1 half payment, and then it'll be matured.
Great.
Great. And the debt service doesn't kick in until the
You
completion?
pay capitalized interest on the portion that you do
build
borrow.
that into the part you borrow.
Yeah, that's one of the beauties of it. The flexibility is, if you go to the bond market, you get this lump sum for the bond market, and you're paying on the whole thing from the day it goes in the
Right.
bank. For these, you're only paying on what you borrow. So if we don't end up borrowing at all, no problem, that's good news.
And you can pile in some of those fees back into it.
And we will do that. I mean, really, that increases the true interest
Sure.
cost, but it's still, I've had this debate with Bruce many times, it's a bargain. And it was interesting because the last couple of presentations we've seen that we went to for professional organizations, nobody knows anything about. Largo and us are seemingly one of the few municipalities that use it. This would be our 4th vehicle that we've used it for. It's tough. What she's doing is the hard part. The application is where all the, I'll call it pain goes. But once it's in place, it's easy to administer. It's cheaper than everything we got. I would bet if Mr. Hauser's still here, he would even say nice things about it once you get it in place.
But the reality of it is, we don't really have a choice. I mean, these
Yeah.
are one of the core functions that we provide as a city. You just got to keep up with it, you know? 'Cause
Well, we threw option 3 out.
option 3 is out.
Well, but the cost of the drinking water, you really don't know how much you're actually losing because of the.
Oh,
I'm sure it's a lot.
I bet I don't think you could estimate it correctly how much water we're going to save a lot of money.
Right.
By saving the water.
That
So
we're losing,
you're right.
that we're not
It's,
capturing, yeah.
Like Lisa said, there's leaks in that neighborhood all the time. Our crew is down there all the time.
So it's also going to be a savings in terms of staff time and effort. They'll be able to focus their efforts elsewhere, and that.
Down on Pine.
Down on Pine.
Downtown.
Just hurry up and get that part finished, please.
I have a question, and well, I'll let you go ahead and finish. I have a question.
Oh,
back to the
I'm done.
easements.
I was just.
Okay, back to the easements, and I understand that, and I don't know. 2 questions. How much work are we not able to do because we can't really get back there? I mean, I know we're going to kind of duct tape it a little bit and get to some of the areas that do have problems, but is it a significant amount that we're not able to get to? Because I'm just, is it a big deal or not a big deal that?
Well, we haven't been able to quantify how big of a problem it is. There are a few homes that have made some occasional complaints about the backyards not draining well, but it's not, it's not endemic. It's not like we have lots and lots of flooding there. It's slow draining off when the rains come, but there is a limited small diameter amount of drainage that happens. Could it be better? Yes, it could definitely be better. The lawns could, clear quicker of the drainage, and they were initially built to drain towards the rear. But it would be incredibly invasive, very expensive, and
Especially the second phase of Harbor Palms is what caused, it didn't cause a lot of problems, but it wasn't engineered correctly to the first phase of Harbor Palms, and that's why y'all have problems sometimes. Because they weren't engineered. Harbor Palms itself was engineered in 1971. By whom, I don't have the slightest idea, but the second phase, I don't think it was engineered, I don't think it was engineered to be compatible to the.
it compounded what happened in the initial phase. And there are a few of the homes, I'm trying to remember the count on the homes, 19, I'm remembering for some reason.
Yeah, it's not a lot of houses that actually front this easement.
But of those, there's 1 or 2 or 3 that over the 15 or 20 years of collective staff time we have that have complained about the flooding in the back. That doesn't justify.
Tearing up everybody's yard. And,
right.
Yeah.
It could be better, but at what cost?
And we did look at those homes, those 3 homes that are having the problem, and we did identify, looking at the survey and looking at the grading back there, how there could just using in-house staff do some regrading so that the water can get to these inlets that already exist. And just with time, there's kind of some obstructions that have occurred that act as dams, so the water doesn't quite get to the inlet.
Because a lot of that goes to Moccasin Creek, right?
How many of the obstructions?
Or doesn't go to Moccasin Creek.
It does.
Eventually.
Yes, it gets there.
How many of the obstructions would you say, based on either the aerial or what have you, are somewhat permanent pools as opposed to sheds or fences or anything like that? Do we have a feel for?
Most of them are sheds and fences and such, and I will let you know, staff does take out fences when they need to get to work in an easement. So a fence is removable and then it can be reestablished, no problem. Sheds can be a little bit more problematic, but I'd say almost all of it is the sheds and the fences. Trees, bushes.
Quite a bit of vegetation is obstructed, vegetation that's
Phase
been
2, is
planted.
it not?
Pardon?
Most of that is in phase 2.
Yes.
It's on both
It's on
sides.
both. You see it on both. Yeah, I mean, if we go back. So you've got Tangerine on the left, so that's the phase 2, and you've got Maplewood on the right, which is the phase 1. And so just where it is, you can, with the couple of examples that I put up here. We did a whole report showing the whole easement and describing each location and each lot and what we were seeing.
We wish you all the luck in the world.
And you certainly don't want to cause disruption, but, and I can't speak for other realtors or title companies, but if any of these homes were purchased within the past probably 10 years for sure, typically, especially if they finance, the title company discloses to them that you have, here's your property line, here's an easement, your pool is in it, or your fence, or your, whatever it is. So it's not like, if they've purchased it recently, typically they should know about it, so.
Mayor, I have a question.
Yeah.
The question is for Nan. About the sewer lining, you said that is completed. I mean, they were in front of my property for 3 days and it was pretty intense smell. Did everything go smoothly?
2 of the 3 phases have been completed. We have various areas that we're lining, and we had 3 phases of the sewer lining we were doing, and we were able to complete 2 of the 3. Yes, what's been done is done completely,
Okay.
and it's cast in place pipe, and so basic cured in place pipe. So you've basically created a pipe inside of a pipe. It's structural inside and lined in.
This will be the last time we will be able to slip line down there.
You can't do it twice.
That's it.
I guess
Thank you.
One last question as it relates to fences. Are the majority of them on their property line, which is also then in the easement? Because obviously, typically, the fence should be at the easement, not at the property line.
According to our ordinances, you can't install a
that's true.
fence across a drainage easement. We do allow them on some of our other easements, but a drainage easement, particularly one that has, open
A swell.
surface flow. But as you can see, almost every yard has a fence.
And I guess the question is, are they at the edges of the easement, or are they right in the middle of them? All of them? Probably all right in the middle of the easement?
They extend to, it is their property.
No, I understand
They own
that.
the property, there's just an easement on the back
But-
10 feet.
So they're all
or-
pretty much right down the middle and on their property lines, as opposed to,
I don't recall any that fenced in at the easement line.
No, along here, they're all pretty much at the property line, so it ends up cutting the easement in half.
back in my drainage days, we had some down in, the West Shore area, somewhat similar thing. It was a single loaded lots with the easement across the back with the stormwater in there. And they were able to put fences in, but they had to, at the particular point it hits the easement, they basically had to elevate them to allow the water to flow underneath. I don't know if that's a solution or not, but
We've tried that, well, not here. We tried that in.
it doesn't always work.
It doesn't always work.
Because you still got to maintain and mow them and
Right.
things like that. So, okay. All right. What are you looking for from us?
Public hearing.
Public hearing, yeah. Any other questions of staff or?
Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you. It is a public hearing. Does anybody wish to address the public on this item?
Thank you.
Seeing no one, we'll close the public hearing. I need a motion for discussion purposes.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion on this? No? Call the roll, please.
Vice Mayor Seidel?
Yes.
Councilmember Saraki?
Yes.
Member McKee?
Yes.
Councilmember Reba?
Yes.
Mayor Rivas?
Or Mayor Burke, as I was referred to the other day. Aye.
Resolution 2018-06, authorizing the application for the State Revolving Funds Program and to accept the facility plan for the Harbor Palms SRF funding package is adopted with 5 votes for and 0 against.
Thanks.
We've been talking about this for 20 years. And
What was
finally,
What was, I didn't hear what you said.
You've been talking about it for 20 years.
we've been talking about this in the Harbor Palms for 20, 25
I
years.
think it's gonna be great for property
It's only
values.
gonna take 3 more years to get done.
Yeah.
Too much for us not
It's way overdue. It's needed.
just wiped that up.
Item 14 is approve and authorize the joint project agreement between the City of Oldsmar and Pinellas County with funding approval for the utility relocation required by the Forest Lakes roadway widening project. The recommended motion is to approve and authorize the execution of what we will refer to as the JPA by the roadway contractor between the city and Pinellas County. I'm going to ask Nan if she would give a little background here. I can read it, but.
So we've talked about Pinellas County has a project between Pine Avenue and Racetrack Road to widen and add an additional lane in each direction. As part of that project, there are some limited areas that our existing water, sewer, and reclaimed water are in conflict. That's partially because there's unsuitable soils under the road, and they're going to have to excavate those and replace them with better soils. They weren't excavated initially, which is part of the reason the road has not held up as well as they would have hoped. So to avoid that, with this construction, the county's doing everything they should do and taking out all of the unsuitable soils that are either organics or clays and getting suitable soil underneath there. That's taking 3 to 4 feet of soil, the whole width of where the roadway is going to be impacted. That increased the distance or the amount of our utilities that were impacted, because usually if they're just building the road, it's a matter of conflict with the storm sewer that they're having to put in. So we have a number of facilities, namely 2,200 feet of control for our raw water source, our water supply. We're doing some raw water mains that we're going to have to replace some segments of the raw water mains. And in the intersection of Tavernier and Forest Lakes, we've got a number of crossings there. All of those have to be replaced.
Well, Tavernier is where actually, this part of Tavernier is where this county really screwed up and built Forest Lakes Boulevard on clay, and the whole thing went pot.
Well, they're ready to fix it properly this time, and their project is actually, I saw their cost estimate today, it's a $13 million project.
It's going to cost a lot of money.
So what we're doing is doing a joint project agreement, which means that the contractor that bids the road job will bid our utility relocation work. That way he can coordinate with his own crews and his own subs, and you don't have to get in there ahead of time and get a separate contractor in. Part of it was the way that the design was going and some funding that the county has through the state. They had a very accelerated design when they finally got around to finishing it. They had designed it once and they were gonna do more work, but it exceeded their budget. So then they had to redesign it, and to keep their funding, it was in a very accelerated pace. And we couldn't get out ahead of them and just get our own contractor and do the relocation of the utilities ahead of them. If you have enough time, a lot of times that's easier to just get your utilities out of the way and then let them build their road. But with the timing that we have, the way we have to get it done is to do it as a joint project agreement. The county's been very cooperative with us putting things together. I think the whole design phase that we've done from the time they were able to identify where the conflicts were has been less than 2 months.
How much?
But that doesn't have any real impact on what the cost is to the city, right? And whether we're doing it before them or we're using their contractor, we're still looking at the same kind of estimate essentially, right? So that doesn't matter much.
I think there is a 5% administrative fee that we're paying to the county for them to administer it within their contract.
We don't have any lines, do we, west of Tavernier?
Yes, we do.
Where do they go? Oh, do they go to the,
It's primarily raw water mains that are impacted, I believe. Yeah.
do they go to the industrial park, the industrial area?
From the wells to the water treatment facility. It's actually bringing the raw water into the water treatment facility for us to treat the brackish water.
Yeah.
That's primarily what's in conflict west of Tavernier.
But east of Tavernier, we don't have much, do we? Except what goes into the industrial park, right?
We have raw water mains, we have finished water mains, we have reclaimed, we have sewer crossing Tavernier.
Yeah, okay. Okay, but most of that goes to the industrial park, the industrial area?
The vast majority of the raw water mains are going through the industrial area to our plant, and then they're serving, like the reclaimed water is serving Nielsen and Microlumen stuff, so it's going to the east to serve them. The sanitary sewer is picking up things north and bringing it south.
Okay.
Any other questions of staff? I guess I have one question, and it's probably not a fight that's worth fighting as far as the fees, and I just thought about this. How much of the utility work would not have to be done if it was not an inferior base?
No, none.
Well, some of the crossings at Tavernier that have 3 feet of cover might have been okay. So those are some of the smaller diameter, the 4-inch. I think we've got, it's all 4, isn't it? And there's 6, 4 and 6. Yeah, water, sewer, and reclaimed right there at Tavernier. A lot of that is the soil replacement.
It's a little frustrating, and again, it'd be a hard fight to fight, but because either the county and or the county's engineer either designed or spec'd an inferior project, or they built it too high, too close to the seasonal high water table, or some combination thereof, that's our fault. We didn't design the original road. We didn't pick the engineer. It's just unfortunate that we have to pay for their inferior work. It's not.
Yeah, I don't know the history. I can't speak to it.
There is no answer.
There is, and it's just, yeah, it is what it is, and I get that. But I think it's pretty safe to say that, they, in one way, shape, or form, have acknowledged that it was a bad design,
Well,
especially in that.
what you're saying is true.
Huh?
Basically, what you're saying is true. Because when they built Forest Lakes Boulevard, Forest Lakes Boulevard was built to Pine Avenue.
Right.
And then from that on the Racetrack Road, that was a whole different project.
Right.
And it didn't happen within a matter of a year and a half. The water table was there.
Oh, yeah, and it just, the base failed, so. We put, at least you were around, was what, 3 or 4 years ago, they did all that under drain work out there to prepare it, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was about 4 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago.
Because, from Racetrack Road to Pine.
And they were digging
That
it
was a
all
pothole
up.
heaven out there. There must have been thousands of potholes.
Right.
Again, it's just frustrating. You know what I mean? I know Mark doesn't care, and it would be a hard fight to fight, but, we know that we're having to pay $400,000 because they had an inferior design.
Well, the county knew it was wrong because they had to redo it.
Right, I know. So, anyway.
They are doing the right thing now.
No, correct, by fixing it. No, I get that. No, I get that.
And it will be a much better road for what they're doing, but that makes the project more substantial to the existing underground utilities. It's not just us, it's the gas company, it's everybody that's in the same boat.
Vertically, that doesn't change, does it, with this design for the utilities? The vertical elevation of the road, that won't have to change, correct?
No, but because they're taking out 3 or 4 feet of unsuitable fill, normally they wouldn't be impacting quite that deep. If you had something at 4 feet, normally it would be vertically deeper than what would be impacted. But if they have to remove all of that soil and bring in clean fill, well, they can't work around your utility.
But the height of the vertical center line is not going to change for Forest Lakes.
No, I I haven't really examined their plans closely.
Because if it's
Do you
getting
remember,
wider,
Lisa?
that means that the end, as you get further out, that's closer even further down, which,
It's not changing significantly, no. I mean, the north side of the road is the edge of pavement staying pretty much where it is. It's
Okay.
the south side of the
So-
road, where all that green space is, that's where they're eating up more of that. So it's shifting a little, but not significant. You're not gonna really notice it.
Well, when you drive down Forest Lakes Boulevard going east, if you notice, the subdivision on the north side is about 10 foot higher than the subdivisions on the south side. And you know, you look at that and you say, well, in the beginning, somebody should have questioned that. I mean, how can the subdivision here on the north side be 10 foot above the subdivisions on the south side of Forest Lake? Drive out there and you'll see it.
yeah, I've seen it, okay. So even widening to the south, doing most of the widening to the south with the pavement, that their stormwater is still gonna be able to function? They'll have enough clearance and everything? So good, it's deep, it was deep enough, I guess?
Yeah, well, they're adjusting their stormwater, which is also part of what's impacting
Okay, so
our
that-
pipes, because they're relocating them pretty much, yeah, they're putting them right on top of where some of the raw water lines are, so now the raw water lines have to move over.
Mr. Mayor, would you like a motion to approve?
Yeah, I guess so.
Make a motion to approve?
Second it.
Okay, motion and a second. Any other discussion? It is what it is. All those in favor?
Aye.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll get them back someday.
Yeah.
Mess up something on
We'll
the.
charge them a toll to come across it.
Thank you, Mayor. Item 15 is approved speed limit increase in Gull Air Village from 15 miles per hour to 20 miles per hour to enable the Pinellas County Sheriff's Office to enforce the speed limit. Tonight, we have Ms. Bonnie Thiel and some members of the Gull Air community here to speak on behalf of that request. And I believe Travis Sibley from the Sheriff's Office is here to give us any information that you may require. In your packet, there's a copy of the Community Association minutes where the specific request was made. As you mentioned in the mayor's minute, that it's a little odd that we're increasing the speed limit in order to get it to be enforced, but so Travis could give us the background as to why that's true, and staff recommends approval.
Okay, thank you. Deputy, you want to kind of give us the Reader's Digest version of why you go up to go down, if you will?
Seems odd, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
Deputy Sibley, Pinellas County Sheriff's Office. Florida Statute 316-189 is what's been cited for this. It's establishment of municipal and county speed zones. It states specifically that a municipality can raise the speed limit to 20 or 25 miles an hour only, and that the 15-mile-an-hour speed limit zone is dedicated for school zones. That being said, what's in there now is a 15-mile-an-hour speed limit sign, and it's not something that we can actually enforce. This was something that came to light when a request was put in for a directed patrol in there, or extra patrol, for speeders, as somebody had requested over here. And in looking at it, it's not something that we can actually stop somebody for at 15 miles an hour over. Being that the sign isn't legally posted, or that the speed limit isn't legally posted in the neighborhood, it would automatically revert to kind of an unposted residential area. And per statute, an unposted residential area automatically reverts to 25 miles an hour. Also, according to statute, somebody cannot be cited for speeding until they're 6 miles an hour over the speed limit. So it specifically says 1 mile an hour to 5 miles an hour over is a warning only, and then at 6 miles an hour, they can be cited. So if it reverts to 25, I think we're looking at, 31 miles an hour before somebody can get cited, and that's like 80 miles an hour on Tampa Road. It's ridiculous to drive too fast, or 31 miles an hour through there. So the request to change it to 20 miles an hour is something that is allowed per the statute, and is something that we can actually enforce and start stopping people for.
Okay. Interesting, I was talking to Al about this earlier, because the neighborhood that I live in is a private community, and so we had to enter an agreement with the city and / Pinellas County to write citations, and ours posted speed limit is 25, which was, I thought that was the minimum, but.
Right, well, I think yours is a gated community, correct?
Right, correct.
And that's one of the differences here with Gull Air Village that really stands out, is Gull Air Village isn't a private community. It's public access roads, which means the roads are public and they are subject to the same rules as all
Sure, but they were saying in order for you to come, like us to hire a contract like they may wanted to do, for you to come into our neighborhood and do it, that it would have had to been posted 25. Maybe times have changed or the numbers have changed, but that's fine, just interesting, so. We had one person from Gulf Air speak. By a show of hands, is everybody is in support of this? Rather than continue to hear the same thing, I think we will, but the gentleman spoke in favor of changing the speed limit from 15 to 20 for the sheer purpose of being able to write tickets. By a show of hands, is everybody in favor of that? How many we got? 1, 2, I can't see. Can you count?
Everybody.
Looks like everybody. 10?
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody opposed to the changing that is here tonight? Just thank you. I mean, if somebody really wants to speak, I think we kind of got the gist of it, and obviously we'll have to vote on it, but that tells us that everybody here, yeah. Can I get a motion? You got it. Second?
Second.
Any discussion from the council? No, I think it's good. I mean, you need to be able to enforce your rules, and again, it seems weird to go up to be able to do it, but it is what it is.
I do have one point to discuss, and that is, we should probably look at the agenda in the future. When we know something like this is going to be kind of a slam dunk, and there's a lot of people
Maybe
waiting.
last.
Should be way
Put it
up.
in the front.
Yeah.
Just a point for our city manager.
It is, yeah, or at least at the front of the city manager component, but
Yeah.
it is what it is, so.
Well, they
We all have to sit here.
enjoy being bored
They
by all
probably
of this.
wanted to hear the meeting, I know.
Well, I mean, look, Barry's still here, and he got his proclamation a long time ago. Linda's here, so yeah, they enjoy it. You're being disrespectful.
Say either way.
The blacks are here. You're being disrespectful to our process here.
Well, that's the way I am sometimes, Mr. Mayor.
All those in favor?
Yes.
Aye, passes 5-0.
I think Bonnie would like to speak, Mayor. We have-
I'm sorry, yeah, do we have a time frame? Yeah, Bonnie, you want to say something? Come on up.
Hello, I'm Bonnie Thiel. I live at 149 Gull Air Boulevard. And at this point, I would like to thank Mr. Brightwaith and his staff for all that they've done over the last 9 months to help us get this done. It's been a long road. We've had a lot of speed bumps along the way, but with his help and with the council's help and all of the city workers here in City Hall, you guys have done a great job, and we as residents of Gull Air feel now that we will have a more safe community because of the fact that this is going to go up, and they will be ticketed. And once a few people get told, hey, you've been warned, or you now are getting a ticket, word will get around, and we will be safer.
Yeah.
And we appreciate it very much. Thank you.
We can't touch them all, but public safety is a very important component.
Especially in a small community like that.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely. So do we have a time frame, or does the city do that? the
Yeah, we'll
signs?
do that.
And do we have a time frame?
I don't, but I promise you we'll get right on it.
Okay, thank you. Do we know how many signs it is? Roughly, it's probably at least one every street, I would think.
I don't know how many it is.
That'd be quite a few, I would think.
2 currently?
No, there's gotta be
That's what I heard.
2?
There's only
There are
two.
only 2 speed limit signs in the whole neighborhood?
There's more than 2. I don't know exactly how many, but there are, in the very beginning, you only see 2, but there are on the streets.
And I'm sure there's some kind of a requirement as to how you have to properly do that. I think even in our neighborhood, we had to do an engineering report to determine.
We will post the speed limit signs per the MUCTD.
Okay, so there may be more, there may be,
There may be less, there may be more.
but it'll
because
follow
of-
that code, which actually it has to do that also for them to enforce it.
Correct.
So, okay,
Thanks, sir.
thank you. Anything else?
That's all I had. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. City Clerk?
Oh, I don't have anything.
Thank you. Oh, I'm sorry. Charter official, I meant to see if you noticed. And go ahead, tell them what, you brought this up.
Yeah.
Well,
If you noticed the name change on Tom, did you notice it?
I did not notice it,
And Al?
but I
Got
read the
it?
emails. I participated in the emails.
If you got one of these, Adam, can you hit, there it is, there's Tom's and Al's. Notice what they say, go ahead. And what's the purpose? Go ahead.
Well, I've been thinking over the years what it means to be a charter official, and it means a lot of responsibility, charter responsibility, and I feel that it's a good idea for the residents to taxpayers and citizens to understand who their charter officials are.
And for those that don't know or are playing along at home, the charter officials, Al runs the city. There you go, Al Branchline. Yeah. Al runs the city, and then the charter officials, which there are three, Tom, Al, and report to the council. When we had to replace Bruce with somebody, the council actually reviewed the applicants and picked the charter official for the city manager. When Ann replaced Lisa, again, the council at the time had to do that. And if something ever happened where Tom was
irreplaceable.
Tom's
irreplaceable.
That's
the oldest or the longest.
yeah, he's the tenured guy. So I think it is important to. Oh, there you go. You got your time in the sun. Yeah, I think it's important to acknowledge that those people work for the city council directly, and you know. So at any rate, that's so good. I'm glad you are calling that out. So.
Well, I mean, in a larger sense, the charter is what gives us the authority and framework for our government. And
Right,
so
the actual charter itself.
the actual city charter itself, and our jobs are in there, the positions are in there, and they're specified with certain duties, which means those are obligations to the people. And so the people are the ones who could amend the charter and.
And to that point, without getting way into the weeds, the charter is something that if a change was made or a council wanted to make a charter change, it would have a referendum?
Yeah.
Yeah, you would adopt an ordinance. It'd be 2 public hearings. You adopt an ordinance. It wouldn't become effective until there was a referendum. So the vote of the people would, in fact, make your ordinance effective, which would change your charter.
And I think correct me if I'm wrong, but under the past administration, there was a request, I think, at least entertained was it a charter change? Would it have been a charter change? To
was
take
part of the
Ann out?
charter review.
Result of the charter review
It was
commission.
it was part of their charter
Will
review committee.
reconvene in 2019.
Having
The city clerk
city clerk report to the city manager, that.
taking it out of the charter.
Flames.
And I don't remember exactly what the
Yeah,
dialogue, but
I
the city
remember that.
council,
I do.
the city council opposed it.
Because I engaged in it with Bruce.
Yeah, the city council was against that
When
wholeheartedly.
was this?
The last,
A couple years ago.
yeah,
I think it was over the fact of
2014.
make sure people weren't abusing
That long ago.
council authority for.
well, and the really important thing about our charter officials, I mean, when you think about it, for those who aren't real familiar, they are the ones who, in part, protect our local democracy
Right.
in many ways from the elected officials. There is that check and balance.
Right.
That is well constructed, that, we can't just get up here and vote and do anything we want. There's a process.
Right.
And that's ensured by our charter officials. It's very important.
It is very important. Yeah, I mean, and not just our
The
city.
charter itself determines that.
That's what we were talking about.
That's what I'm saying.
That's- and they're
Their
the-
job, in part, is
To be the caretaker
right.
and make sure that we as a city, as a council,
Who tried to change the charter in 2014?
let's not get into that.
2014, the charter review commission.
You can connect the dots.
Charter Review Board?
Yeah.
Well, they're not that important anyway, go ahead.
So there you go. There is always that.
Well, I didn't serve on that committee.
Yeah. So anyway,
Well, let me tell you, it's the council's responsibility. The charter official can bring it before the council, but the council doesn't have to follow their recommendations.
Right, but the council cannot do something that's in violation of our charter, and our check and balance to that
That's what,
is really our charter officials. So that's where the importance of having quality charter officials. Likewise, I don't know how many people know that there is actually, I think it's in section C, or 3C, something like that, that our charter officials, specifically the city manager, that it is truly in charge by our charter of our staff, to the extent that if one of us was to give a directive to a staff member,
we got a problem.
we actually are subject to forfeiture of our office. Very important. Now, I know Jerry's never told anybody on staff what to do, but
Don't need me on staff, I may get mad at them, but I'm not
that
gonna
is
tell
part
them
of the
what to
charter.
do.
Right.
it is part, right. And I think at one time or another,
Article 3, is it, or Article?
I think at one time or
Does that
another,
sound right?
we may have all been called into the principal's office for, not really intentionally violating it, but, you know, and we all do. We, you know, Deb's not here, but I mean, I know I've asked Deb to, you know, do things, you know, and if it's super important, but now I copy Felicia on it or Al or somebody, but so that it's transparent.
That's why in March you're out.
How you handle it,
Catch it up.
Per the charter. Per the charter.
You're
how
out.
you handle that, I would always go to Bruce and say, I'm gonna talk to him, do you have a problem? And he'll say, no. I go to Al now, do you have a problem? And he's gonna tell me yes or no.
Yeah.
See, you go to them first.
Sure.
But you need to keep, we try and do our best to keep them
And
all
then
in
we
the
got
loop.
the guy sitting over here with the big hammer.
I'm gonna make a charter change for rambling during meetings that are over 2 hours. How about that?
Yeah, anyway, so it is interesting, it's a very important point.
You
so-
second it, okay.
Very important point.
So anyway, so you thought you had nothing, but there we just had
Yes, I
Charter 101 class, so. Thanks. City Council, the only thing we have under there is comments by council members, and we'll start with Councilmember Beaverland.
I have 3 quick ones. Could we possibly contact the railroad company, whoever they are?
Yes, sir.
And
Bayview,
thank you.
I saw what's happening.
Bayview is horrible.
It's tearing cars up, I mean,
Oh, thank you.
the crossing,
Thanks, Bob.
thank you.
It's horrible.
It's the part to the left, because I finally drove it. If you drive to the right, it doesn't, the railroad ties are just almost non-existent.
Well, it's starting to come apart now. I drove it tonight, the wood is all over. I mean, it's all over.
Somebody's gonna sue somebody because their axles are gonna drop out. So, anyway, that. And Marie never came back in.
She's avoiding you. She's avoiding you.
She's avoiding me, okay. On the corner of Pine Avenue and Tampa Road, the gas station,
7-Eleven?
yeah. Could we possibly have them, we made them put their, the landscape, has anybody noticed the landscaping on that corner?
I've seen Steak and Shake has redone all their.
Steak and Shake did theirs. That other one is horrible looking. It's embarrassing.
On 7-Eleven?
7-Eleven.
Yeah.
I saw it the other day. It's unkept, and part of it's dead, and the sad part is it's for sale, so it doesn't show well. So contact them.
Thank you. And I know I've asked this before, and I know we're getting grants. When are we going to fix our mediums? Landscaping.
That's up. I think didn't we just get the other most recent grant approved to help work on
Yeah,
that?
we have one.
Well, anyway, I have a suggestion that you redo the landscaping itself of the mediums and not try to landscape the whole medium, but put in circles and something, because when a bush goes bad, it makes everything look bad.
Yeah,
So don't try to landscape the whole medium. I mean, you can do it in design and make it pretty and make it look good, but you don't have to do so much of it.
yeah, and I think Felicia's addressed that before in the
Yeah, she
past
has.
about the types of plants that really should be out there that have a longer shelf life, if you will. So,
And thank you all who you are, especially you, Mayor Becker.
that was funny. I didn't even know if I should have stood up. Mayor Burke, yeah, I was Mayor Burke.
Oh, Burke, I'm sorry.
I went to
Mayor
a veteran,
Burke.
me and Councilmember Beaverland went to an event the other night, Veterans to Veterans, that do a lot of good work, but they were really spent a lot of time introducing everybody that was there. I don't know exactly what the purpose of it was, but it was nice. Mayor Burke enjoyed it, so.
Mayor Burke, Mayor Burke.
Yeah, so anyway, Councilmember McGee?
2 things. Happy early birthday to Kathy. Couldn't slip that one
About
by.
time you get back on your game.
And then also Happy Mother's Day, because we won't meet again until, not to you all, but to the mothers in our community.
Some people that have to play the role of father and mother, so.
Okay. And you can wear my woman's shirt too, if you want to.
No, I'm good.
We've already established it fits me, apparently.
Yeah.
Heck that one.
That's all I have.
Thank you. Councilmember Saraki.
Thank you, Mayor. I only have one thing. I just want to say I thought yesterday's work session went well, and I really enjoy being on the team. think we all work well together, and just a shout out to the city staff. I thought they did an excellent job in preparation for that meeting, and that's all I have, Mayor.
I echo that. I mean, I think the staff did a really good job, and it was very productive because we clearly came across some things that needed to be brought more current, so.
Very productive meeting, it was great.
You know, and I think it makes us a better city, you know, I mean, I think that was one of the things that we talked at our work session, which this kind of falls in line with that, is, you know, make our city as good as it can, you know, from an 8 to a 10, and some of them, and they're not significant changes, but there's some housekeeping, I think, that needed to be done, and things, as Jerry made it at the meeting, times change, and, you know, so we, you know, got to make sure you stay on top of it.
I just follow whatever.
Oh, you do not. Oh, you do not. Oh, that is a bunch of stuff. Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I agree on the work session yesterday. I'll tell you, and this was to Jerry's point, I think, a while back, when this first got put on there. I think it's important because even though most of us have been on council for some time, there's so many moving parts to the city that for us to really, really be above and beyond in our job, understanding those kinds of detail makes a difference. So I applaud staff for all the effort they put into that, because I thought it was really good. I know all of us received it from the Tampa Bay Water Ski Show team, the request about signage. Is that something we can do?
Felicia's going to meet with them. In the purest sense of the request, probably not. But we'll work with them to see if there's a way we can, you know, fairly advance our cause and hopefully theirs. But we can't just magically pop up a sign because they're asking for it. But we'll report back to you once we meet with them specifically to go over that email request.
Okay.
Well, sometime, Eric, like the skating rink, once the road is built.
Right.
Right.
I mean, there's a
Sure.
skating rink.
Yeah.
Yeah, and once Burbank is done, that's going to help them tremendously.
I know.
They may not want all the business.
I know we've got a update via email from Al on CBRE, the status report. Is there anything that you want to add to that, Al? It's just kind of, I think you noted that you were going to have a follow-up conversation. Did that happen today?
Yeah, it happened this morning, but there's nothing I'm ready to share yet that I kind of want to talk to everybody about first. But the CBRE people, you know, we exchanged philosophies of, you know, what happened, why we thought it happened, and what they thought we wanted to do next. But I want to do some studying and discussion with the council before we decide what our next step is.
Well, I just, for the record, would say that hopefully we find an effective way to use them, since we do have an agreement with them. But I would say that if there's not really something meaningful there, then I think this council should come back later after Al has done more work and consider whether or not there's a way to terminate that agreement, because it didn't really work too well. And so,
Work at all.
That
as a
agreement,
matter of fact, not at all for what we really wanted them to do. And it would perhaps put us in a different direction in terms of maybe us being more proactive to try to recruit, so on and so forth. Certainly anyone that they've brought to the table, we would be married to, but just put that out there, and Al's aware of it, and that's all I got to say on that.
that agreement expires in what, 2020?
I think it was a 2-year agreement.
2-year agreement.
2 year? Okay.
It's a
And
2-year
and as it stands now, I don't think we have grounds for termination with what's occurred. But certainly I've reviewed that, and I will have a conversation with the people in DC
and see what options there
We'll
are.
see if
You know,
it's an
maybe
option.
there's another effective way to use them. But I don't know what that is. The only other thing I have, I just want to say on a personal note, many of you know that my father-in-law passed away a week ago, and I can't thank everyone enough for all the calls and the messages and the kind words and notes and people who brought food over. And he was 62 years old. He had been battling a disease, COPD, but that's not what happened. He broke his leg at the femur, and, you know, when he went to operate, he was too weak, quite frankly, and he coded right there on the spot. And so it was
it was unexpected from that standpoint, clearly. So Kay and I are reminded why we live here. And so I just wanted to say thank you to everybody.
Yep.
That's all I got, Mr. Mayor.
Yep, thank you. I don't have a whole lot. I agree. The session went, really well yesterday. And I do, to Councilmember Saraki, I think we do work well together. I think we listen to one another. We listen to staff. We don't always have the best answers, but as Jerry indicated before, the reason decisions were made 10 or 20 years ago or 30 years ago may not apply today or need to be revisited and tweaked. And, for us to, and I think Jerry mentioned this when he first brought it up, was for us to understand the history of how we got from there to here. And does that same logic apply today? I think in general, yes, but I think there's some issues that we definitely found that will make us a better machine. And also, I think, give staff some better direction in making decisions in the best interest of the city. So at any rate, tomorrow I'm excited. I get to go to Nielsen. I've done this in the past. Nielsen has a mentoring program, and they do it with Leto High School. And Nielsen is a big giver, back to the community. And so tomorrow I get to go speak at Nielsen for the graduates of their mentor program. And it's a great relationship. I'm sure you've done with the groups you've been in, the JCs, and, mentoring some of these young kids is tremendous, especially in these trying times for people. And to have somebody, you may come from a broken home or what have you, and to have a mentor, especially somebody of the caliber of a Nielsen employee, they really bond. It's so neat to see I don't know who's prouder, the Nielsen mentor or the kid or, the people that are there, but it's definitely a kumbaya moment. So at any rate, look forward to that. I look forward to Kathy blocking out 7 days on my calendar a couple of months ago. I actually get to go on a vacation.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I was struggling I was reading that water proclamation, and as I saw May 6th, that's the day I leave on the cruise, and I'm going May 6th, and I'm thinking, I'm going to be on the water. I'm going to be on the water. So I kept trying to read the proclamation, and I kept going to the pool deck and, conserving water and, the things that I do on a cruise.
Right.
So, yeah, so at any rate. So I don't have anything else. Al, do you have anything to add for the good of the cause? Nope? You don't want to push your little Frosty Man thing or anything like that?
Sir.
No? So, Al?
Did you bring that thing?
What? I don't know how many, I'm going to do this just because I can. How many, what is it? This Mr. Sophie? I thought we had one of these in Cincinnati, but Al got the old, I don't know. We're an older bunch.
New York thing.
I think it's a Cincinnati thing too, so don't challenge me.
Better in New York.
Is it an Oldsmar thing?
Is it an old guy thing? Because that's what I'm perceiving in this moment.
Oh,
You could
is
make
that
that
Frosty
point.
the ice cream truck? Is that what that is?
Hold on, you ready? That was
Up on my street every day.
And what state are you from?
Buffalo, New York,
They had ice cream trucks down there.
every day. Growing up,
not English.
every day.
Yeah, it's New
Thank you,
York.
Lisa, for showing up. But
Yes,
yeah,
please.
we have ice cream trucks down here, but I don't know who runs them. But putting a cooler in the back of a pickup truck is not an ice cream machine. So at any rate, so
That's it.
anything
Frosty,
else for the
yeah,
good of the
that's it.
cause? There we
That's the
go. We got
truck.
the Frosty machine. So adjourned. Never can run outside and get ice cream.